Read all stuff. Deb Huffman, would you lead us in invocation and pledge, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Deb Hoffman. All right. Huffman. Did I say Hoffman? Did I say Hoffman? I'm sorry, Huffman. All right. All right. Call to order our meeting, please. Yep.
Okay, Bonnie,
Here.
Brad,
Here.
Jennifer,
Here.
Faith,
Here.
Mike. Here. And Paula is out.
Yeah, it's probably like one of the islands. All right. All right. I need a motion to approve the minutes from June 24th.
I'll make a motion.
Faith, and then a second,
I'll
please.
second.
Second, Ms. Jennifer. All right. Ms. Brenda.
Mike,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
and Brad.
Yes.
All right, thank you for that. All right, we're going to start with our presentations, and actually we have two listed here, but we actually added two more. One was the good news we got from our Hagerman Construction that we're going to add to, but we're going to start with Amber Odell first. Amber, come on up here. Talk to us about the city fair and Bullet Blast and whatever else you got going on.
How's everyone tonight?
I didn't get the pink memo.
I know, right?
I didn't get the pink
Seems
memo.
like,
All right.
especially her Stanley. That's my next cup.
No, so there's
have
a
the
lot of
green
pink going
one,
on.
so I have to
Is there any
get
pink on
one
that
out.
side of it? No? All right. What
So
you got for us, Miss
the
Amber?
city fair was awesome. It was bigger and better than last year. A lot of people loved the free rides, the craft vendors, food trucks. So it was a blast. I want to say a huge thank you to Bonnie. She manned the Louisville water
Yeah.
area
Yeah, the little tap water.
that night.
Yeah.
You did fabulous. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you did a great job.
People loved that we had the free water. It went Friday and Saturday, and by 9:30 they were banging the coolers wanting to get the water. So it was a huge success on that part. And then Paula, she did part of the dunk tank for us Saturday evening. So just wanted to say thank you to everyone that participated, that was there, that helped out. And then next on the events coming up, we have the Vietnam Wall and Cost of Freedom tribute, which will be, we have a convoy come in July 24th. It will start in Mount Washington Sports Complex. It will leave from there at 7 o'clock, go down Landis Lane to Old Bargetown Road to 44, and then into the park. So we would like everybody to come out, join us at the park, and pay tribute to that. Starting that evening, around 9:30, we will put the wall together, and then starting at midnight, hopefully that evening, through the morning of July 30th, it will be open 24 hours for the public to come. If you'd like to volunteer for that week while it's in, we have actually a meeting tomorrow at the American Legion Post 157 at 6 o'clock. So if anybody wants to attend that meeting, come out for that. Also, July 23rd will be a dinner at the American Legion. Dinner's at 6 o'clock. Tickets are $10. And then at 7 o'clock that evening, they will have a live auction. If you'd like to purchase any tickets, I see Tina back here. You can get with Tina and Karen if you want to buy tickets for that. And then on July 25th, we will have the opening ceremony for the wall at 6 o'clock at City Park. So we would like everybody to attend that. And that's all that I have
Soccer.
Oh, soccer. Soccer clinic, free soccer camp will start this Saturday, 9 to 11. It's gonna be held in the city park on the Frankie Simon side. So that will go from July 13th every Saturday until August 10th. So if you have any kids that you know, it's not too late to sign up for them. So bring them out, and Shelby's over that, so she'd love to have the kiddos out, so.
So a couple things that, first of all, in the soccer, they had over 60 people, 60 kids sign up for that. Okay, and it's no charge. So we just want the kids to be out Saturday mornings. Great time for them to get out before it gets too hot, but a good time for them. We had a blast with it. This year they wanted to do it outside, so we made it later, one of our events, versus the volleyball and the basketball we had. And we're actually gonna add Gaga ball in the fall. We're gonna invite Judge Summers and myself, we'll get and do Gaga ball. I'll tell you about it later. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good stuff. But I do wanna add one thing to the City Fair Bullet Blast. And we made this we had a follow-up meeting today. What was really nice about the community, we know we had thousands and thousands of people come in, because when you look from the pavilion back, it was flooded with people all the way to the Ferris wheel. One of the things that I really enjoyed to talk to both chiefs and all the public works is the mannerisms of the folks that came. You know, we're always worried about when you have that size of group come to something. It was handled very well. We didn't have any incidents. We had, I think, 2 or 3 people that had some hydration issues on Saturday, but that was it. And on top of that, the public works did a great job, but on top of that, everybody kept the place nice. And that meant a lot to, when you think about our community taking pride. And it's not just here, but it's all the surrounding areas. They had a good time. They really liked it. It was really nice to see that a lot of parents thanked us for having the free rides for the kids, because again, the cost and the challenges that some of these families have, it was nice to have that out there. So, and Amber did a wonderful job at this. I can't tell you that all the work that she put in that. I didn't get in her way at all. I tried to stay out of her way. She did a great job with it. And we do have a great group of people between our police department, fire department, public works. All of them did a great job with it, and I can't thank you enough. And then we're looking at other activities to continue to put onto the schedule, so we'll hold that one until we get some more details worked out, okay? But thank you very much, Ms. Amber.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being here. All right, you can leave it on. I guess Courtney's coming up here. Courtney, I apologize. I didn't know that Courtney was gonna make it here. She's leaving in the morning.
I did.
You look like you're getting
my
ready to leave
vacation.
somewhere. Okay, no worries.
Because
Come
I
tell
wanted
us.
to update on a couple of things. The Downtown Business Association, we're gonna get together again in September. We kind of spot checked a few of the businesses. There's a lot going on down there, so we feel like we're gonna have a really healthy update in September. So that's extremely important to keep in mind. I will get the exact date, but I'm trying really hard to make sure that we're talking to the funeral home, the title, everybody that's down there is getting a chance to kind of put their 2 cents in, so we can make it a good meeting. So we are, even if we might have to start rotating meeting nights to accommodate the business owners down there, I really want to make sure that we get as good of attendance as possible. In the name of the park, one thing I want to do an update on, we are working on a fundraiser for the veterans section that we've talked about. And I would like for you all to consider and give me some feedback. We're really focusing on that November timeframe, right around Veterans Day. Makes a perfect sense to really do something honoring our veterans. And we're thinking about making it an annual event, calling it like a hometown hero type, and making it a 5K. And if you think, my gosh, November, who's gonna wanna do a 5K? You'd be amazed at the pumpkin runs, the snowman 5, there's so many things. So I think that's something to consider. Talking again, I'm trying my best to get with other veterans and saying, okay, what would you all like to see? How would you? And I think that's something that we could probably get behind, is a veteran, getting everybody, again, all of our veteran associations that are local, and even we could probably pull some that aren't in Bullitt County to represent and be a part of our hometown hero fundraiser. And every single proceed would go toward our veteran portion of our park. So I think that's a pretty exciting update. And then the last part is just a little bit of economic, as the economic development representative. It focuses on Shepherdsville, but also Bullitt County. A lot of time in the course of the last 20 years, you don't always think of Bullitt County as winning in the economic field, especially when it comes to education and some of the things. I just know in years past, we've not always been in the top of the top. Well, I'm really happy to brag. Anybody who doesn't know what Kentucky Anna Works is, it's a board comprised of 7 counties, and we have the mayor of Louisville's on our board. There's representatives from UPS. There's local government, but also a lot of business leaders, decision makers in Bullitt County and then the surrounding, in Jefferson County and the surrounding 6 counties. And the whole purpose of that board is to really push, what can we do to make sure that we have any spots that are open filled, that we are educating employers on how to connect with folks that are looking for jobs, and how to make sure that the people who are looking for employment have access and appropriate opportunities to get with those folks. So one thing that is extremely, I sent it to the judge, we were kind of celebrating about, there was a statistic that came up. This is the second time that we've had a presenter come in and they're talking about some of the things that are going right and wrong, and Bullitt County is in the top of the categories. I mean, like astronomically in the top of categories. So to brag on our school system and a little bit about what's going on, this says high school seniors. The category that I'm going to talk about is in-state employment rate for high school grads within a year of graduation. And I don't know if you can see this, but the top line is Bullitt County. We're at 84%. We are significantly higher. Jefferson County's in that low, they're probably 6 on the list out of 7. Bullitt County's number 1 at 84%. That is a staggering statistic, and I guarantee you, if you looked about 12, 15 years ago, we would not have been there. That is a serious nod to what's going on, matching up some of the programs we have, feeding people to UPS, to GFS, to Amazon. We're really working hard to say, okay, who has the opportunities for employment? Not everybody's gonna go to school for a 4-year degree. These are kids coming out of school with a specific, that aviation program. We are graduating jet mechanics every single year out of Bullitt Central. So it's phenomenal what's going on. So I just want to make sure, in the name of economics, this impacts our economic development and stability here in Bullitt County, especially Shepherdsville, because we have so many employment opportunities. So why would we not continue to do what we're doing? And they even made the comment that, well, let's look and see what Bullitt County's doing, because clearly they're doing something right. And I was like, yeah. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So I wanted to brag on that. And the other category that we were substantially higher than everyone else was the actual average income from those graduates. So again, when we immediately assume, well, we don't have the money to do that, our community doesn't have the money to do that, our household income is so much lower than everyone else, you'd be shocked. So I'm gonna start getting, this just really gave me some motivation to do some diving in to see what did last year's numbers look like, because I'm really curious, because this was when it was just getting started. So I just wanted to brag on what is going on in our community, not just economically, but also just in the school system. We are doing something right, so just please make sure that we are listening and paying attention and bragging on our county and our city every time we can, because it felt so good to be in that. I just don't always want to say, well, we couldn't do that. Our community can't afford that. I think we all should be aware we're on the rise, and the household medium, the income that we keep talking about, is going up at a staggering rate, and it feels really good. I know we have a lot of work to do,
Sure.
but I just want to
No, I think
acknowledge
so.
the work that we're doing.
Hey, so before you go, first of all, I know you couldn't make it. I want to give you this because I gave a copy to everybody that's on the council. This is an award that we received Wednesday from the VFW 10281. They actually recognized the city of Shepherdsville because we recognize the POW and MIAs. And so we're doing more with them. We're going to be doing more with our veterans lodge out there off 44. The idea is that people forget there are still people in Korea. There's still people in Vietnam, the loved ones that they don't have. And I tell you, it really meant a lot to go to this thing. I know Courtney was going to try to make it with me, but I want to make sure that you have that. And I wanted you guys to know that, because all of the different things that we do, we've seen it. This is also something that we care about, is our military.
Yes.
And for the loved ones that are still not with us. So they've got a great program. They did a whole flag ceremony. It was really cool. And, Vine Grove is an area that I grew up in as a kid. It was kind of nice to go back there. But it was nice Saturday for us to be recognized as a city. They recognized other cities, but I was only the elected official that was there. They had about 70 people there, but a lot of those were the local folks. It was just nice to receive the honor for us.
It feels
So,
good
good
to
stuff.
be outside of the county and be recognized. It really
That's
does.
right. So
In
we're
a
pretty excited.
positive way.
Well, I appreciate the information.
Any-
That's awesome. And,
Any questions?
no, I don't, but have a safe vacation.
I'm
You
going
guys have
to.
anything, Mike?
Vacation is a stretch. I'm going to Disney with my children.
Okay,
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, thank you very
It was
much.
presented right in front of the mayor of Louisville. It was awesome.
Cool.
It felt really good.
I like it when they talk about us like that, right? Thank you, Ms. Courtney. All right, so obviously, we had to kind of add something. We've been working on it. We were hoping to get some results on Friday, but Hagerman and their group is working really hard. So what they're doing today is, remember all the bidding that we went through and all that price? They actually want to do something just to clarify for both the public and for you guys. They put it all together, a nice little package. So we're going to get information to you, but I just wanted you guys to come up, talk briefly about that, because what's happened now is, now we're ready. Now we're ready to move forward. So there's no action that we need from the council, but it's important you see that, because this is part of the contract that we'll be signing to move forward with putting a shovel in the ground. So if you two gentlemen come up here, come on up here, Rick. Come up, Chris. Just come up here for a minute. After you push that button, I'd just like to just introduce yourself again. I think the folks that were there at the bidding process probably remember you guys. But yep, on the edge there. There you go. And again, we'll get the information. I've got it. We'll make sure they get it. But if you guys want to talk briefly about the good news that we've kind of worked together with Scott and Arthur, and you guys.
Sure, love to. My name is Rick Merritt. I'm project executive for the Louisville office, and will be in charge of this project, along with a very talented team of construction professionals that will bring this job to fruition. This is Chris Bingham. So we've, over the past several weeks, our staff have scoured the area both locally and regionally for quality bidders, working with Luckett and Farley, one of the best design firms you can use. We took bids, got decent coverage, lacked in a couple areas, not for lack of trying. Did some value engineering. At the end of the day, we came in right under 25.2 million. That's to get the building that we've envisioned. So, yeah.
We wanted to make sure that part of that is, the number that he just gave you was the number they actually went through the bidding process that we were targeting.
That's correct.
And so that is the number that they're holding to. It has contingencies in there, okay, and there's obviously some of the sales tax that's gonna lower that a little bit.
Right.
But
Well, and what we're giving you is that the contract that you all have is a guaranteed max plus, or max
that's what we
price.
wanted you guys
So
to know.
that's the one you have seen. 25,197 or whatever it is,
Right.
25,2, that's as high as it gets. From there, we're gonna start talking to subcontractors, trying to get better pricing, and as things get started, everybody can start seeing everything, we can start pushing subcontractors a little bit more. And I appreciate you all coming out. A lot of you came to the bid opening. That was eye-opening for you. We tried to tell you it's a lengthy process. And when, just the last several months or weeks that we've spent going through with every subcontractor, talking about everything that's on those drawings. Did you get every outlet? Did you get everything that's on there? So that nobody comes back and says, oh, we missed that, we need more money. That's where we're coming to you right now and saying, 25.2 is where it is. There is no coming back. Now, if you all come to us and say, hey, we want to add something, we're going to talk about, hey, it's going to cost you, it's not part of that price.
Sure.
But for right now, that's where you are, that's where it goes, and that's where it stays.
We wanted to make sure that we presented that piece, because you guys got the nuts and bolts when you were there, for the ones that were there, but more importantly, we want to make sure that you hear this piece, because probably here shortly, we're going to be signing a contract to get that first shovel in the ground,
It
okay?
means you're getting your pools, your splash pads, you're getting pickleball, you're getting all the stuff that.
And
that you
Arthur's
put
gonna
in
go
there.
down the big slide. Arthur's going down the big slide. So, but I think it's important that we're trying to be transparent. We're gonna have a line by line. You're gonna get this one sheet he's got, and it's got something that goes with it. We're gonna get that all to you guys, so you have copies of line by line where that 25,198 is, okay? And then again, if you got any questions with that, what we'll do is, you can always reach out to them again, but this is moving forward. This is the piece that we needed, so we can sign that contract to move forward and get a shovel on the ground. Can't say that enough. We've been all waiting for that. Right, Arthur? We've had meetings after meetings, and I mean, all good stuff. We've gone places to see other facilities, but this is the point. We're now ready to get going, and that's why I wanted to make sure I put you on the agenda, so you can tell them that we've got it to a point, we've got that commitment on the money, and we're ready to go. Okay?
Yeah, we've got a complete scope of work. That's a guaranteed maximum price. So,
Two things that we talked about. Now, we are gonna try to do some virtual, so people can actually, somewhere in the mix somewhere once we get started here, there's not a timeline for that. We do want people to have a virtual tour of what all this is gonna look like, and then also too, they're actually gonna have an update as far as the construction, so you can keep an eye on that as well. So just for that, and then obviously you can just drive by every day like I'm going to, because it's gonna be fun. I will be there every day, Arthur, probably 8 o'clock in the morning with my coffee going. looking in between the fence. But gentlemen, I just want to tell you, first of all, I think they got a little gist of what you guys do. I want to make sure everybody knows the kind of work that you had to put to it. How many phone calls do you think you've had over the last 2 weeks?
Hundreds and hundreds.
Especially
From
from me and
just Scott
Scott.
and Arthur?
But, yeah. Well, I called you a lot. I didn't call.
Yeah, I'm not even counting that.
No, I called him a few times. But it's exciting to get to this part. And I know there's a lot of work that's not really fancy, but this is the most important part. Now we have a dollar amount that we're gonna work from. And that's been a big concern of ours, because a year ago when we started this, those numbers move.
Right.
That's why tomorrow, if we would, come in and see you tomorrow, we'll get some paperwork for you, and I'll make sure these folks get some information. I know we got one missing today. Okay. But I want to tell you, thank you for the hard work at this point, and we're just getting started.
We are so excited about the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
And
We
can't wait to
appreciate it.
get this thing
I'm gonna
started.
clap, because I'm really can't wait to get started on stuff.
Thanks.
And we are excited. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you for coming. I'll see you tomorrow, Chris.
Mayor, I just had a question.
Oh, oh.
Have you already started speaking with, subcontractors that you feel that you might be able to lower?
So we will never stop trying to get
Okay.
savings out of the project. I've talked to half a dozen contractors just today.
Okay.
So we spent 2 weeks verifying that the contractors had the scope of work, they are financially sound and can complete the project.
Okay.
They're safe, and they know how to do the work.
So-
As your partner, I'll spend every day trying to squeeze as much cost as I can.
Chris, did we not say that today, that our partner will always continue even though we have a 25? I said this morning. It's about really looking at, now that we've got a number, we can get better than that, we're always looking for a little bit better, right? Because that'll help us with other expenses and things we get going. Rick, thank you for all your work. And we'll try not to call you as much, but you know we probably still will.
Mayor, I want a pink shovel.
A pink shovel for faith. Does that match?
You can spray paint it, I'm big on spray paint.
That might cost.
Look at,
That
look,
might,
no,
that might cause them.
that's within the,
cost
that's
to go
within the
up.
scope. That's within the scope. It's on me. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. All right. What's that? What? You want some glitter? Oh, good God. No request of this. Arthur, what do you want on your shovel? All right. With that said, our last but not least as far as our presentations, Katie, would you come up here? This is 7 counties, and we got a chance to meet. And I will tell you, I'm like everybody else, until you know what 7 counties does, you don't know what 7 counties does. And so she got opportunities. What I asked her to do today is, because we're always looking at the agencies we work with, that we're going to find out what they do and figure out with everybody else here, between church organizations and other nonprofits, how they communicate, how they network, so that we're actually solving the one thing we want, is those less fortunate that need our help. So with that, just push that button and introduce yourself and tell us all about it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Michael. I am, like he said, at the manager of the 7 counties office. I've been the manager there for 3 years now. It's been a very quick 3 years, but it's been a very informative 3 years. So what we are, what 7 counties is, our new logo is we are your hometown mental health clinic. So we are a community mental health agency, and we provide outpatient services for, as our name implies, the 7 counties, which is Jefferson County, Bullitt, Henry, Oldham, Trimble, Shelby, Spencer. Bullitt County is our largest rural county. We see about, depending on the month, anywhere from 1,200 to 1,800 clients a month. After meeting with Mr. Mayor, I looked into our demographics. Out of those 1,800, about 655 are here from Shepherdsville, which is our highest population in terms of geographical area. Next is the Hillview area, and then surprisingly, our 3rd largest population comes from Nelson County, from the Bardstown area. So that was surprising to me as well. But we try to be the one-stop shop for mental health needs here in the county. That's where we are different than our Jefferson County counterparts. Jefferson County is very siloed. Kids go to a location, adults go to a different location, addiction services are at a different location. But here in Bullitt County, everything is provided here at 130 Joe B. Hall, like catty corner from Park Country, since there's like 3 130 Joe B. Halls in the city, in case you all didn't know. So we provide on-site, so face-to-face, or telehealth services, depending on the need of our clients. Something that we found during COVID that actually benefited rural communities was the telehealth, because a lot of the population cannot take a full day off work to drive across the county to come talk about their mental health. Well, now they can take their lunch break and flex it, go out to their car, talk to their therapist, and then go back into work, and nobody's missed any time. And it also helps break the stigma, because they don't have, well, where'd you go for the day? No one has to know because you're on lunch break. With that, we also provide medication. We have prescribers on site, and that is for mental health medications as well as substance use or opiate use disorder medication assisted treatment. We also do that as well. We have case management services where we will help people apply for insurance, jobs. Housing is a huge need here in Bullitt County, but unfortunately right now there is none, so our case management they do the best they can to help people find, places to live. And then, like I said, we also do addiction services as well, so we have a whole side that's dedicated to substance use. So just some things coming up. I was excited. We found out on Friday we have 7 counties does Stand Up for Recovery. We now have a second event called Golf for Recovery, and that's going to be September 3rd here in Shepherdsville at Heritage Hill Golf Club. So if you all like to golf, or you want to get a group together, I could be your caddy, which would be terrifying for you all, but a really great time for me. So any questions, or? That was a really quick spiel, I know.
No, I was going to tell you, so one of the things we try to do, we promote a lot of stuff on pages with Amber. We really want to make sure that folks know about the services here. We're actually going to put it on our website. We'll make sure we get it on that. So people know that when they click on our website, they have a chance for resources. So they know actually where they can go to get help. Mental health is really on the rise. There's so many different reasons, and we know about our veterans, but we know there's so much more to think about there. And then it comes across with the drug addiction. Right, so then we have two issues with the same individual. So we're seeing a lot of that, and we see it in our society. But what we want to do as a community is have a good resource. If we identify somebody within the city that's a homeless or something, we got to be able to identify at least where they're at and who's the resource they can get to. So we're working with the different organizations that are out there. I talked to Perry Cook about this. I met with E.J. Lanham from the Field of Grace already. And so I've got other meetings, and I've met with Jeremy Willis. We're going to all try to figure out, when we identify somebody, are they from here? Well, great, let's see what we can do if they got support staff here. If they're not from here, let's identify, can we get them to the location? But some of that starts with actually 7 county services, because they're sometimes the first resource. And we want to try to make sure we have support to help them get that person to where they need to be. We know about Jenny with the turnaround. There's other opportunities for folks to try to help men. So we keep the women and family in one organization, and then we have men in another, to try to make sure we get them back on their feet. But part of that is a very critical piece in that. We always say this, individuals got to want to do that. That's the key in this. So there are times we're going to have to make decisions about folks, and all the guidelines are out there, and you guys got guidelines. I know we've talked about that. I mean, seriously, some pretty strict guidelines of what you can do, and that's the piece I did not know, that some of these organizations do actually have those guidelines, but you have them as well, and just didn't know. Right? So I think at this point, we just need to find ways to make people aware that we have 7 county services and how they can be helpful to, and then making sure that Amber, Katie, always gets what we can do. If you want to let us know, I know you got some cards there if you want to pass them out.
Okay, I brought our flyer. It's back on the table. This just has a list of our services as well as our phone number, 589-1100. If someone is not in a mental health emergency, they can call that to set up an appointment. They will have an appointment within 10 days. So that is one thing we can guarantee. And then I also brought some crisis cards that I'll leave back here. We have 7 counties has 24-hour crisis lines for adults, kids, addictions, and disability services. But one thing that I didn't know that most people weren't aware of is 988, which is Mental Health 911. It's a statewide incentive. 7 counties answers the phone for our 7 county regions. So you can dial our crisis number, or you can just tell someone to call 988. They will still get through to crisis services as well. And it's a whole lot easier to remember. So, well, thank you all.
Katie, thank you very much. Well, again, stay with Amber and make sure we get information. Just email us back things as you want to. And I'm going to go play golf without you being my caddy. Just
That's
don't take that
okay.
personal.
I say, you can all.
No.
It'll be a good time no matter what.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate that very much. All right. We have old business, Ms. Catherine. All right. So we're having a second reading on the ordinance 024022.
Summary of ordinance 024022, an ordinance overriding the Bullitt County Joint Planning Commission's recommendation to amend the Bullitt County City Zoning Order and the Bullitt County City Zoning Map as amended, changing the zoning of 0.3772 acres, more or less, located at West Blue Lick and Sand Dollar Court, lots 2 and 3, in the city of Shepherdsville, Bullitt County, Kentucky, also known as parcel 036 S000701A, from R3 Residential to B1 Highway Business, sponsored by Councilmember Bonnie Enlow. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that the Bullitt County Joint Planning Commission held a public hearing on May 9th, 2024, and recommended that the Bullitt County City Zoning Order and the Bullitt County City Zoning Map as amended be amended to change the zoning of 0.3772 acres located at West Blue Lick and Sand Dollar Court, lots 2 and 3, also known as parcel 036 S000701A, hereinafter subject property, from R3 Residential to B1 Highway Business. Section 2 sets forth that the City Council held its own public hearing on June 10, 2024. Section 3 sets forth the findings of facts made by the City Council based upon the testimony and evidence presented at the June 10, 2024 public hearing. Section 4 sets forth the City Council's decision to override the recommendations of the Bullitt County Joint Planning Commission. Section 5 provides that the Bullitt County City Zoning Order and the Bullitt County Zoning Map shall not be amended to rezone the subject property. Section 6 sets forth the severability clause. Section 7 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 8 sets forth the publication requirements.
All right. Any last questions from everybody here? And everybody understands what you're doing with this?
Yes.
All right, you're voting. Do you have a motion? Bonnie has a motion?
Where's the ordinance
second.
for this?
What?
The ordinance?
The actual ordinance, that was provided last meeting.
That was
I
last
thought
meeting.
it was, I thought we just determined at the last meeting to reject it.
And we just had our first
I
reading.
haven't seen an ordinance.
You got it, you got it.
Was it in the last one?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, no, it's fine.
Is there something you want to know about it?
No, I
Okay.
just hadn't gone back and looked and seen that. That's all I had on it.
All right. I got a first.
I seconded.
I got a second, all right. All right, so obviously, you know how you're voting, right? You make sure everybody knows you're voting to override. All right, just making sure. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think it was mentioned last, when we read the ordinance. What were the findings of that?
It was mentioned.
Yeah.
There's like
There's
14
16
children.
school-age children who catch the bus on the corner.
The special needs bus?
There's a special needs bus that has to go down through there. That doesn't count any other children that are under school age that live on the street. And when I went on the street 3 times, and there were 3 very young children that played out there.
So Tom,
But I can't guarantee they live there.
Let me read, I'll read to you what section
You
3
can
of
take
the
a
ordinance
paper clip
actually
off.
says. So it says, based upon the testimony and evidence offered at the public hearing on June 10, 2024, the City Council hereby makes the following findings of facts. A, that the map amendment is not in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. B, that the current zoning classification of R3 residential is not inappropriate. And C, that the appropriate zoning classification of B1 highway business is not appropriate based on the following. 1, the property cannot meet the setback requirements under the zoning regulations for Bullitt County and the cities of Hillview, Lebanon Junction, Mount Washington, and Shepherdsville. 2, there is no area for a retention pond and the area is already subject to flooding when it rains. And 3, approximately 16 school-aged children catch the school bus at the intersection of West Blue Lick and Sand Dollar Court. And there have not been major changes of an economic, physical, or social nature within the area involved, which were not anticipated in the adopted comprehensive plan and which have substantially altered the basic character of such area. And I can send a copy of that to you.
That's fine. I just.
yeah, and so, yeah, so Tom, the other piece is that,
I didn't hear it last meeting stated like that, so
okay, and
that's where, that's,
No, and also too, the other two things that were not part of facts of finding, that were the two things as far as the character issue with the fact that he came with one plan, brought another one to us, and then also we made the point, and then Catherine stated that it couldn't be facts of finding because it's just something what he did. Also, his comments of planning and zoning versus what he told us about who's gonna take care of that water runoff to 44, that was incorrect. So that's the key. So they can't be in facts of finding because it's just a breach of character really more than it is a legal thing. Right, Ms. Catherine?
Correct, because the statute makes it clear that how a property can be rezoned is dictated by by KRS, and if it doesn't meet the requirements, then the rezoning is not appropriate.
All right, so we have first and second. Any other questions? Mike, Tom, thank you for your question. All right, we good? Bonnie, you have anything? You're just ready, huh? Got that? Mike?
Yes.
All right.
Jennifer?
What are we voting for?
If you vote yes,
I'm voting
if
to
you
get
vote,
rid of it, right?
if you vote yes, you are voting to
Together.
override their recommendation
Oh,
to
yes,
rezone.
yes, okay.
Brad?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
So you were ready to go right on the beginning of that, Bonnie.
Yes.
They made you less. Made you
Yes.
less. All right, thanks, council. All right, so I think he's back there. All right, thank you all for that. All right, so 7.2, second reading of our ordinance 024023. Ms. Catherine.
Summary of ordinance 024023, an ordinance amending ordinance 023013 related to the establishment of a property maintenance code in the city of Shepherdsville, Bullitt County, Kentucky, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Portman, co-sponsored by Councilmember Jennifer Mendez. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 023013 is amended as follows. Section 2 sets forth that Section 45 related to penalties is amended as follows. A, violations of this code shall be subject to a civil fine of $100 per violation. Each day that an uncorrected violation of this code occurs is a separate and distinct offense. Example 1, one uncorrected violation is $100 total for the first day, $200 total for the second day, $300 total for the third day, $400 total for the fourth day, etc. Example 2, two uncorrected violations are $200 total for the first day, $400 total for the second day, $600 total for the third day, $800 total for the fourth day, etc. Example 3, three uncorrected violations are $300 total for the first day, $600 total for the second day, $900 total for the third day, $1,200 total for the fourth day, etc. Example 4, three uncorrected violations are $300 for the first day, $600 total for the second day. On the third day, if one of the three violations has been corrected, then the civil fine on that third day would total $800. That's $600 for 2 days of three uncorrected violations, plus $200 for uncorrected violations on day 3, which equals $800 for 3 days of uncorrected violations. B, payment of the civil penalty does not relieve the owner or occupant of the requirement to remedy violations of this code. Section 3 sets forth the severability clause. Section 4 sets forth the repeal of requirements is in conflict with this ordinance. Section 5 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, so she put it like that because we had graphs out and there were some different interpretations. We just want to make sure people understand how these fines are actually accumulated for each violation, each day. But also the point is if you do correct one, you do get a reduction in the fines, but it does not, by paying those fines, remove you from fixing the problem. I think that sometimes that's maybe misconstrued, but that's important to put that in there. So that was an easy way to fix that versus the graph we had because we did have some interpretations. All right, is everybody good with that? All right.
I'll make a
You
motion.
got a motion? That's all right there. Second, please.
I'll second.
Second by Jennifer. All right, Ms. Brenda? No worries. You're good. You're good.
Brad?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
All right, thank you all. All right, new business. As an ordinance we've actually added into that we had, but we're back. So if you guys know, first thing on your new business is going to be the reading of the ordinance 024024 about relating the sale of animals. Right. So I just want to make sure that you know that's what she's reading right now. Ms. Catherine?
Yes, and this ordinance was, it was what? It was tabled several weeks ago. And then I think last week we decided, I don't know if there was official motion to bring it off the table. there was an official, okay, so I guess we need a motion to bring it off the table, because we did table it.
Motion.
That motion by Bonnie,
I'll second it.
second by Faith, all right?
Mike?
No, it's just.
We're just bringing it
Table.
off the table, so I can read it.
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Brad.
Can I ask what specifically this addresses as part of that ordinance?
Restricting the sale, where they can be sold. Remember, you can't sell, you can sell at your home.
Oh, is this the-
Remember, this is about the selling, this
Oh,
is
this
where.
Dan, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
All right.
sorry.
No worries.
Okay, Bonnie,
Yes.
I tell you, Robert and his rules, complicated. All right, so,
Okay.
All
all right, so,
right, we brought it up to
this is the
table.
summary of ordinance, the animal ordinance. Do you have a summary, Jennifer?
She should have given it to everybody. She
Could you
actually,
just pass that up?
Did
Because
you
we were
No,
going
that's
down
not
the
what I
line and we
passed
got
out.
it.
I thought you were on 25.
Yeah,
No.
I
I'm
did
sorry,
too.
no, thank you.
there you go.
Yeah, we were on that.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Summary of ordinance 024024, an ordinance relating to the sale of animals in the city of Shepherdsville, Bullitt County, Kentucky, sponsored by Councilmember Faith Foreman. Summary, section 1 sets forth the definitions. Section 2 sets forth that it shall be unlawful for a retail pet store as defined in the ordinance to sell or offer for sale puppies, kittens, dogs, and/or cats. Further sets forth that it shall be unlawful for any person to offer for sale any animal as defined in this ordinance at or on any public area, outdoor market, booth, flea market, roadside stand, temporary site, or parking lot, regardless of whether such access is authorized by the property owner. Further sets forth that the ordinance does not prohibit the provision of space to an animal rescue organization, animal welfare group, animal shelter, or veterinary hospital as defined in the ordinance to publicly showcase animals for adoption, provided that the provider does not maintain an ownership interest in any of the animals offered for adoption or receive a fee for providing such space. Further sets forth that the ordinance does not prohibit the display of animals as part of a state or county fair exhibition, 4-H program, or similar exhibitions or educational displays. Section 3 sets forth a civil penalty of $150 for the first violation, $200 for the second violation, and $250 for each subsequent violation thereafter. Section 4 sets forth the severability clause. Section 5 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 6 sets forth the publication requirement.
Right, obviously that was concerned about the way that these conditions, that was the biggest part about this, was the conditions of some of the purchase.
Most of it was no water, the local flea market, people were selling cats and dogs, and there was no water, no food, no cover. It was 90-degree weather, and so that's the main thing that brought this on.
Right, I actually bought an animal from the flea market one year to save the dog
Wow.
because it was in the hot sun with no water. And I couldn't leave the dog there, so I bought it.
Yeah, well, I know you did a good thing. All right, well, I appreciate this, is our first reading now, I don't know if there's any questions, I know that we've talked a little bit about it, we tabled it last meeting, so, first reading on that, so.
And if anybody has any questions, give me a yell, because I've talked to several people about this. And Catherine has too. She's went over it a lot.
And it does not, even though it doesn't state this, it does not prevent the sale from somebody selling an animal out of their home.
As
When
long as
you,
they don't,
when you go to look at how the ordinance reads, it doesn't state that, but the way it defines public space and the
Right.
places. So somebody that's breeding dogs that sell them out of their home, we're not coming knocking on their door. We're not gonna
Right.
be sending any police or code enforcement officers to say
no
they can't do
worries,
that.
no worries.
Unless there's another statutory violation that we don't know about.
All right, so with that said, we'll move on to 8.1, now we're up to 024, 025. You wanna explain this, or just read through it? I know you guys know, this was actually from last year. This, what it does is, it's kind of how we cleared things up, and we were clearing up one of the areas with some of the pay classifications. As it stands now, what was on the books is invalid, but as Catherine's made a focus, and she's been the city attorney, is to clear up our books. So that's why we're having these for one of these three. Is that correct, is there three of them?
Yes,
Okay.
so when Jose came to me and said, hey, we need to look at amending the Parks and Rec, one thing I realized is we had done a lot of amendments, to the pay scale ordinance, and we had never merged them. So the problem is you had to remember, wait a minute, have we already, and they're supposed to be merged. As soon as it's adopted, it actually slides into that ordinance. It becomes one document. It's not like you refer to that. We're not going to ever amend the ordinance we did last year for this 023004 because it became 01. So as I was merging it, I realized there was 3 that had been previously passed, 2 in 2021, 1 in 2022, that really should have been repealed. They were not really passed or written correctly. And we ended up, when we did the ordinance last year, we changed all of that anyway. So they also became moot. But for clarity, I just repeal these. That way, 20 years down the road, when somebody's looking at all of this, they'll understand, and they don't have to go back and go, oh, wait, that really is void under Kentucky law, so they just ignored it. We're just going to repeal it. That way, there's no confusion, and there could be no issue about, oh, well, maybe it's not void, and somebody trying to come and argue somehow that it shouldn't be void under Kentucky law. So this is just for clarity. The first 2 really have to do with the certification pay. So there was that certification table. It's actually what's in the other ordinance that I was deleting that did not get deleted by oversight, that had to do with public works and sewer, and if they got certain certifications, they got a 25%, 50
Yeah, that was a hot
That
mess.
was supposed to have been, yeah, that was supposed to have been.
It was,
Yeah.
well, so that they weren't getting paid on that. It was just that table
They wasn't taken out.
wasn't taken out. But the pay, the language saying about that was, Bonnie, so we were fine. We just need to clean that up. But, so, the ordinances I'm repealing, the first 2, changed minor things in those certification pay scales that we actually ended up getting rid of. So, those are what that's about. The third one was changing, I do believe it was Gayla's position, because there was like 3 ordinances that kept changing.
Well, it had her down as a salary employee, and she's not.
Well,
Yeah.
we're fixing that, but I'm talking about the one I'm repealing prior to that. So there was like 3 ordinances prior that for some reason we could not figure out what we wanted to call people and their titles. I don't know why, but, so that's what those are. Does that answer everybody's questions on at least the 3 repeals? Okay. So then I'll start with summary of ordinance 024025. An ordinance repealing ordinance 02103 of the city of Shepherdsville related to personnel and pay rate classification plan for city employees and non-elected city officers for the city of Shepherdsville, Bullitt County, Kentucky, sponsored by Council Member Paula Mangus. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 021030 passed on September 13th, 2021 is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right. So now we're at 8.2, obviously the first reading of the 024026.
Summary of ordinance 024026, an ordinance repealing ordinance 021035 of the city of Shepherdsville related to personnel and pay rate classification plan for city employees and non-elected city officers for the city of Shepherdsville, Bullitt County, Kentucky, sponsored by Council Member Paula Mangus. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 021035 passed on November 8th, 2021 is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, thank you, Ms. Catherine. All right, 8.3, that's 024027, concerning Gayla's job description, or title.
This is actually repealing the old one. Summary of ordinance 024027, an ordinance repealing ordinance 022054 of the city of Shepherdsville related to personnel and pay rate classification plan for city employees and non-elected city officers for the city of Shepherdsville, Bullitt County, Kentucky, sponsored by Council Member Paula Mangus. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 022054 passed on June 13, 2022 is repealed in its entirety. Section 2 sets forth the severability clause. Section 3 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 4 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, and so 8.4, just to give you a little idea here, we first put out the notice about the Parks Rec position. A couple of things, as we reviewed that and saw the turnout for that, we saw a whole lot of job description and not a whole lot of salary. So we've tweaked a little bit. We had HR work with us on what we wanted to make sure our job description was for that position. We now changed the title's gonna be changed to Parks Rec Director. And we changed the salary range, which was originally, I think, 55 to 69, now it's 69 to 80. When you look at what's going to be involved in this position, it's a pretty extensive position. Coordinate all the different agencies and making this aquatic center and all other sports and other activities in the park. So with that said, we actually reached out to HR Alliance, which is our contracted HR group, and they are working on that process now. But we needed to change it within our within our ordinances, so that's what you're having this here for you. So I want to make sure you know, because we want the very best person to be in this position, because there's going to be quite a bit of work with it. And so we wanted to make sure we actually had the right group of people that were interested in it, because it's going to be very important to you. Not only we want to manage the aquatic center, build it right first, guys, and then we want to manage it, and then we'll go to having the folks that actually coordinate all the activities. So, all right, Ms. Kat.
And it also took Parks and Rec out of the admin department and created
Yes,
its
I'm
own
sorry.
department.
Yes, because it's a one-person band, probably for the first year, but as every year goes by, it's going to be its own department as far as other individuals working, because it's going to be quite extensive. But we want to get that person started so they can kind of be involved in the construction of the aquatic center, as well as build these relationships with the Board of Health, the county, and some other folks with us. So we've got a lot of work in front of us, and that person's going to have a lot of work in front of them.
So where will that person be housed? I mean,
We haven't found a home yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got Amber in the closet, so we're trying to figure out where we're gonna, maybe a closet over here or something, we'll figure it out. No, but all seriousness, we do have some renovations over at the sewer department, we might find a spot there, because that's, could work out for us too, so we'll figure that out, right? Go on, get started.
You're
Come
gonna
on.
have that full before they even have the paint dry.
Public Works, they don't have any room?
We don't know, I don't know yet, I really just, obviously as we get it done, we're gonna interview and find a home. All right, Ms. Catherine?
Summary of ordinance 024028, an ordinance amending 019283 as amended of the City of Shepherdsville related to personnel and pay rate classification plan for city employees and non-elected city officers for the City of Shepherdsville, Bullitt County, Kentucky, sponsored by Council Member Paula Mangus. Summary, Section 1 sets forth that ordinance 01923 is amended as follows. Section 2 sets forth that Section 2 is amended as follows. 1, to reflect the change of the maximum pay rate to $121,327.25 a year for finance director position. 2, to reflect the change of the maximum pay rate to $33 an hour for code enforcement officer position. 3, to reflect the change of beginning pay rate to $30 an hour and maximum pay rate to $45 an hour for the assistant finance director position. 4, to reflect the elimination of the position of Parks and Recreation Administrator. Section 3 sets forth that Section 7 is amended as follows. 1, to reflect the creation of the Parks and Recreation Department and the positions, beginning pay rate and maximum pay rate for each position. Section 4 sets forth that Section 9 is amended as follows. 1, to reflect the elimination of the position of Parks and Recreation Administrator. Section 5 sets forth that Section 41 is amended as follows. 1, to reflect the elimination of certification pay scales. 2, to reflect the addition of the position of Parks and Recreation Director and the job objective, primary job functions, education and experience, critical skill expertise, physical requirements, work environment, and reporting responsibilities of the position. Section 6 sets forth that Section 43 is amended as follows. To reflect the addition of a longevity pay scale for the Parks and Recreation Department. Section 7 sets forth the severability clause. Section 8 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 9 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right, so obviously to include, if you look at, when you read the ordinance that she just read you, we actually were just cleaning up a couple of things. The big focus was the actual Parks Director. We had some things that we changed. Yeah, so if you'll look at, you see all the adjustments that she's done correctly. And one of the things that we learned last year as we do these ordinances to be done correctly. And that's what she spent most of her time over this last year and a half working on. Right, Ms. Camp? All right, you can see all the adjustments that she's made on that, so it's pretty lengthy. But again, when you go through read this, make yourself some questions. Please reach out to myself or Catherine, and we'll get your questions answered before we actually have our next reading on this. All right? Yes, sir.
So in this ordinance, it only defines that position of park director.
That's the only adjustment.
And it brings the pay limits or brackets into effect to cover what they exist today. Okay.
Okay. No worries. We just think we're looking at the extent of that position and looking what it's going to be a position, and HR has already helped us with getting some candidates there, so we're pretty excited about that as well. All right, so we have ordinance. Our next on our topic is 8.5. And before we read this next ordinance is 024029. Kenneth, why don't you come up here and bring, would you like to, and also why don't you come up here too? Bring you up here, make you do some work. I know you're getting ready to fall asleep there. All right, so I want to make sure, we've got two people that signed up. Was it you guys signed up to speak? On annexations, there's not actually, the speaking of it from a public standpoint would be in the planning and zoning piece. Now, if we were actually planning and zoning it here at Shepherdsville, they would do that. I don't mind giving you a couple of minutes. We don't normally do that, but since you guys made the effort to come out here, we do not. We don't have guest speakers on this because it doesn't fit that aspect as far as the process. But you two came in, I'll give you a couple of minutes somewhere in the mix of all this, okay? You're very welcome. All right, so first of all, I want to make sure a couple of things. Just for Kenneth and I, just to give you a history here before we get started. Are you standing so far away? Oh, you stay right there if you want to. That's right. That's okay. It's okay. I just wanted, if there was something that you didn't do this morning, I don't know. I just didn't know. But for us, the biggest piece I wanted you all to know is that Kenneth called, I'm going to say several months ago, I could say 8, 9 months ago, called and said, hey, got a concept here that we've had actually in Louisville. I'd love to bring that to Shepherdsville. And I said, hey, what is it? Paintball. So from that point, Kenneth and I have been dialoguing back and forth, and we've made conversations, and we thought, what a great concept to have in the city when it comes to the skate park and the playground and the aquatic center and all the different sports activities was a nice thing to put on our portfolio, right? Another thing you can do in Shepherdsville, and a very unique concept. So with that said, Ken and I just went back and forth, and they actually went to planning and zoning and got their approval. Now, in the process of that evening, and I just full disclosure for everybody in the public, you know, we decided what was the path of least resistance to kind of move this thing along to bring you into Shepherdsville. And we said, just keep moving forward with the process, just go to the fiscal court, and they got voted, it got approved. So right now, as it stands, no matter what happens today, or anything in this council, there will be a paintball place that's been approved by the county and the planning and zoning. So that doesn't change what can happen to that property, because that has already been established. What we want to do is the city is looking at their invitation to be part of our city. And for everybody in this audience, I want to make it very clear, we've made this conversation known, but for the public, if anybody desires to have the sewers that we offer as a service for our community, we're going to tell you that you have to be part of our city. Because we do not want to have some of the other things that we've seen in other communities where they, what I call wheeling and dealing with different agreements to do sewers. So we didn't want to have that in our community. We made that clear. We made it clear to Kenneth. We made it very clear to him that it was at his expense to be part of our city. And we've made that clear as well. So I know there's some talk. We've talked to a couple of council to make sure that there's no expense from the city standpoint. So from that standpoint, from the city standpoint, and from my standpoint and perspective for this council was, okay, it's already going to be, it's right next door to us when you look at where the property actually lays out on the backside of the St. Andrews. So that's what we want to do. Now, we're going to have some discussions, but I want to make sure for everybody here, whatever happens on this council doesn't change what's going to be developed to that. Now, one of the key things that did come up from a couple of different people is that's what you got to prove for. So we can, before we even have the first reading, we can mandate on that annexation that it is a paintball facility and nothing else. Okay, so we'd like to do that for everybody here. I'd like everybody here in the audience. Again, some of the history of some of the things that have happened here, I don't believe have. I mean, I can't believe that they happened, and they have. And they have. I mean, it's not just this community, it's others. But for us as Shepherdsville, we want to make sure that everybody here, the council, and people sitting in the audience know that's what you propose to the planning and zoning. That's what you propose to fiscal court, and we want that. The only thing else I'm going to add to that is the fact that sewers are wanted. That's in the city. Yes. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. The second piece is it obviously adds another venue to our city, which is great. I mean, the county's great, but obviously we have an opportunity. And there is some additional revenue for us, okay? Remember that there's an occupational tax and property tax. We would actually make some money from that annually. So we have a revenue piece that works for us, no cost to us, and we have another facility. I'm making their argument, but I want to make sure these are conversations we've had, and I want these folks now to answer any questions you have, but I think that's important. You know, these are kind of conversations we've had with you guys about having it, and I'm excited to have it. I'm excited to have it in the community. I can't wait to get Arthur out there. But I do think it's important to keep a little lightness, but the process has been followed. So I want to make sure that you all know that. So you want to introduce yourself first to everybody here? I know they know who Arthur is.
Yes.
And tell about yourself and what you've done. I know I've heard it a couple of times, but
Well, first off, my name's Kenneth Shell. This is Kyle, and this is Chris over here, the engineer. I want to first thank you for considering our request to become part of the city of Shepherdsville. What we want to do here, I mean, this is a passion for me. I've been involved with paintball for over 30 years. Traveled all over the world played amateur to professional level, and met some of the most amazing people with paintball, just that simple game. And when we closed our facility in Louisville in 21, I didn't know if I was actually gonna do it. I was like, I've done that my whole life, but I miss it. The community misses it. Every day I get about a dozen messages, when and where, and how doubtful it's even the timeline it's gonna do that we've taken. Is it really coming back? The buzz is out there. We wanna build a world-class facility that will bring in tournaments recreationally on the weekends for corporate outings, everything. It's not just for tournaments, it's for birthday parties and just group outings, youth outings, all of that. Is there any questions anybody has?
I do. I have several.
Yes, ma'am.
First off, what kind of building are you gonna put on the property?
We're looking at some pre-engineered steel buildings. That would be only for the pro shop and for some tools to maintain the property.
Okay.
It's gonna be very aesthetic looking. It's gonna have extensive landscaping in the front, landscape islands in the parking lot, no lighting in the parking lot, just security lighting on the building, just for security.
Okay. And so, like the mayor said, there's no cost to the city at all for the sewers, correct?
Zero.
Have you already talked to people about easements? Or are we gonna need easements? I mean, it is coming in the back of people's property, so we're gonna have to have easements, correct?
We do have 100-foot on the boundaries where we're gonna leave. The front was already, there was nothing in the front of that property area, it's just
I
overgrown
know where
grass.
it's at, yeah.
But where the tree line exists now, we're gonna preserve 100 foot of that on each side. And the main activity in the front where we're gonna have some of the concept courses, and I have some of these I can pass out too, and they do have some pictures in it.
Yeah.
I don't know, have y'all seen any of these?
No.
Okay.
And do you plan, if we don't annex it, are you gonna go ahead and do the paintball?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That was another question. And how many employees do you think you'll employ?
Anywhere from 15 to 20. Some of
Okay.
those will be full-time, probably about 4 or 5 full-time, and the rest will be part-time. Most of
Okay.
it's generally youth. That paintball
That's good.
is it's not the cheapest activity to do.
Right.
But, so what I found out over my years of playing, there's a lot of youth that finance their play by reffing the games. They love paintball. I've seen some of the most quiet young men and young women, like, come into our facility at the beginning and they start playing as a customer, that they find a home there somewhat and a following, and it opens them up, and I see them blossom into young men. And I've had some of the kids that have become FBI agents and business owners, pilots, other professionals throughout. So that's what, I've seen it take and turn around a young kid that was on a wrong path, and that we was able to get them in the right place. I know that's not exactly what you answered, but I also want to add that for
Yeah.
my introduction.
Okay, and do you know, I'm sure you're familiar with 44, how dangerous the road is. I mean, even, I go to a beauty salon up in that area, and you about get killed every time you're trying to get in there. I mean, do you realize that it's gonna be a kind of a bit of a nightmare?
It is, and I've become more familiar with it since we purchased the property last year. I know we are with the approval of the Kentucky Department of Transportation, we're planning an acceleration and deceleration entrance and exit to the property. So that's gonna help minimize some of
Okay.
that and help assist in getting in and coming out.
Yeah, they
Okay.
had diagrams. I mean, if we could, I mean, I know you guys have, so that would be a good thing to send so they could see it. Because one of the things, the arguments was made about the whole property, which was made actually in planning and zoning, was originally that property was gonna be for housing, for 300 or 400 homes. And I did not know this, but at planning, they said, if you're looking to allow a person who owns the property to do what they'd like to do with the property, this is probably a lot better from a traffic standpoint than anything else that would be going on. So again, that was brought up and it's like, okay, I kind of get that. We're always looking for housing, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yep.
But
I know.
obviously that property doesn't fit kind of with some of the traffic on 44, so kind of go to your comment. It's a lot less traffic on that property than it would be if it had 300 or 400 homes on it. And I just thought it was an interesting concept because as you look at growing, you can't stop growing because 44 is just like it is. Until it actually changes, there's some things the county and Judge Summers and them have been working diligently on to start on the east side and come all the way through here. So we're hoping something in the next few years they're actually gonna have a turning lane or have some areas we're gonna have more lanes, right, Arthur? I think you're aware of that as well.
Yeah, and another point is they did also dedicate some right-of-way to widening of 44
Right.
with this rezoning, so
Okay.
that's already done, so nobody has to come back and ask for it, and then offer to pay money, so that's.
And that was offered in the planning
That
zone.
was offered in the
Okay.
planning zone. So
Okay.
it's when it comes about, if that widening comes about, that's already taken care of as far as the widening point, and to echo the mayor, this is a very low intensity use. In fact, the start time is gonna be at 9 or later in the morning to avoid the school traffic, to avoid any school bus interference as well, specifically at the request or the input.
I would assume that it's weekends.
Most of it's gonna be weekends, but like through the week, it's usually private groups, corporate outings and things like that.
Uh-huh.
And they come in either like in a bus, not
Yes.
a lot of different vehicles or
Right.
anything like that, or they,
We're gonna have a team building.
yeah, team build, yeah.
We're
like-
gonna have a team building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I look forward to this.
We have Tom, we'll invite Tom too as well.
And we have, they're called frenemies, so.
Frenemies.
I'm going after you, Tom.
Yeah, I
All right,
got
so-
you,
So
though.
Arthur, just, 'cause
Thank
we
you.
did, and thank you, Faith. So Arthur, do you wanna add anything too, just obviously, we know that they're gonna get connected and they're gonna pay the expense to do that. Is there something you wanna add to that, or is there anything
As
that's?
we get into the design and whatnot, more of the parameters that they're gonna be bringing to the table will be evaluated. I know their design team is capable and competent, so I don't have any reservations whatsoever for this installation in this location. I think it's a good fit for the city. It's, of course, a valuable thing for us to have here, both from an activity standpoint and a good partner to have in the community, so.
We've got an upside with it, obviously, there's no expense to us, and we have some revenue dollars, and every bit counts. There's always a sidewalk to fix or a road to fix.
Can we get, I guess like an aerial view,
Oh, there you go.
where no,
Is that not
it's not
aerial?
what I'm gonna ask
Oh.
for. I want to know the routes where we would do sewer lines. Like, I wanna see what routes are we looking at on the sewer lines. So, if we could do that, okay.
I'd like to see it too.
I'm sure Chris would like him too.
Yeah, Bonnie.
Oh, well, yeah.
Chris is gonna be the one.
Yeah.
Okay,
She's got some questions.
Yes.
First of all, I noticed on some of the plans that you sent us that you're listing the address as 231 Foster Lane. Why is that?
I saw that too, even when I even sent a pin, dropped a pin, and it came up that too on Google. I didn't fill out the application all the way. I know it's just, even, I needed an address for a delivery that's potentially coming, and I just had tracks on my purchase.
Because this property does not touch Foster Lane.
I saw that too, and even when I went there to grab a pin, it even Google pulled up that address too that you mentioned. I
Okay.
couldn't
It's just
reach
a matter of the fact that there is no building on that property yet, and so since that parcel has no building, it does not have an address. Once there is a
Okay, that's why.
actual
Yeah.
building built there, then Charlie Spalding will assign an address to that specific.
Okay.
And Bonnie, in the ordinance, I don't list 231.
Okay.
Foster Lane. It does say Foster Lane, it has it as,
But it shouldn't have Foster Lane on it at all, because it doesn't even connect to it. It has
I
nothing
pulled
to do
that
with it.
directly from the PVA,
Okay.
so that's
Yeah, it's not us.
where that's how it's described, track 2, plat 3-333, 67.85 acres, Foster Lane, that was the PVA's. I mean, we could certainly take that out, I mean, as long as we've got really the parcel ID and the deed book, page and number, I mean, that's what this is all gonna go by.
Yeah.
As I said, I always have to
Yeah.
defer to whatever the PVA has listed it as that.
So, hey, Bonnie, that's a good question. Let's do this. So when does Charlie have to, does it have the building construction or just getting in construction? Or, because as he gets his permits to do this, or has it, what he has, does he have to, when does Charlie have to change that address? Now, the deed's gonna be right, as she's mentioned, that's fine.
Right, and I think that's totally fine for our process and what we're doing, as long as we've got parcel ID, the deed,
Okay.
we're good to go.
Okay.
He will only be assigned that once he knows where that front building is.
Yep.
Because that way EMS, fire, and everything else, they know exactly where to go and how to go, because that is very much determined by where is that front building.
Okay.
Which way it faces.
And we'll follow up the PDA
And
too.
that may have happened because, for all we know, all of that property at one time was one big acre.
It was.
And it was
It
where
was.
Foster Lane went down, and then when they subdivide, because it was always part of Foster Lane, that's what they call it. So, we can certainly take out the term Foster Lane and just put it as tract 2, plat 333, 67.5 acres in Shepherdsville, Bullock County, Kentucky, with the parcel ID number. Or we could state on Highway 44 if we wanted. I don't, it's on Highway 44.
It is on Highway 44.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
No, we know that. I'm just gonna say, do we need to, I mean, we, don't- at this point, it's the deed of record. If you want us to, if, for admission purposes, we can remove the Foster. That doesn't have to be on there.
I prefer to have
Okay.
Foster Lane
I don't know.
removed from that.
Can
I
we
could
do-
pull the deed. I don't know how it's referenced in the deed, but I,
I'm going from memory, it doesn't reference Foster Lane.
okay.
It just
That's
references.
just tract.
Does it say tract 2, plat 3-333? Yeah.
I think
So that piece is gonna match with the deed of
Okay,
record.
so we can take out the Foster Lane
Yeah.
portion.
And just before, as I mentioned before, we will actually state in there, just again, for the history of some of the things that have been developed over the years here, just for what we call just a gut check here, we will actually make sure that in this property, it is only a paintball facility. Again,
It's gonna state that it remains subject,
okay,
the annexed property will remain subject to the same land restrictions, if any, as applied to it by the Bullock County Fiscal Court prior to annexation.
Okay.
And that will cover everything. And I know that there were a lot
Yes.
of restrictions and mandates. I don't know, do you have like a list that you could send me so I could send to them? Because I would imagine they don't. I don't even remember, and I was at that meeting. It was a laundry
It was a lot of
list. I
stuff.
like, good
Yeah,
grief.
I'd be happy to send it.
I remember the turning, the acceleration, deceleration.
Yes, so they were very thorough in the rezoning process.
Okay.
And planning and zoning.
All right, I have some more questions. The parking lot, what is the material of the parking lot gonna be?
Asphalt.
And there's an overflow lot, that'll be gravel, but that'll be occasional.
Okay. Your pictures that you provided, here, I'm a little concerned about some of how your previous lot looked. Is this all part of your lot here, that you're showing?
That was the previous facility, yes. All those were.
I don't want it to look like that here.
Okay. Well, that's not on the front side of it. It's on, the way we're excavating the property, it's gonna be below grade. And it's gonna, the concept course, it's like a little urban city. It is the furthest course back that you won't even really see where it's.
Is that a course back there, or is that just where you got a bunch of stuff?
No, that was a course. That was a playing course.
And what about all the stuff stacked around the buildings and stuff
Let me see,
that you've got on here? All that stuff around here.
This right here, these are tents. This was a tournament that day. Those were just pop-up tents.
Because,
The little park right here, that was a course right here? That was a course?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, that was like more of an urban environment, and actually, it was one of the most popular.
Yeah.
It had Connex boxes and a small little castle and things like that. And they would have objectives to be able to do it. But that right there, it's an aerial. That was a drone pic. So from the line of sight of a person or a house, you could not see that. There was a fence that went all the way around and blocked that whole side of the property, and that was on 40 acres.
Yes.
We're on 68 acres here, so, and we're preserving the 100-foot tree line all the way around it too. That is, like you said, if you do an aerial picture of any property, you're probably gonna see some things you really don't wanna see that you would see if you was just driving by or.
Will the new facility pretty much reflect what you had at the old facility, though?
I'm sorry, sir?
Will the new facility be pretty much a
Pretty
reflection of
much,
this
they
one?
have, there's 3 artificial turf fields, and then netting surrounds every course. So there's no paintball markers, we call them markers for be a more sensitive term. They're all only discharged in those zones, in those areas.
that was
There's
gonna be my
referees
next
and
question.
course marshals that we either transport the groups to those where there would be already referees there. There's not just people just wandering around anywhere.
So there's not gonna be, you're not gonna risk having overflow into other properties?
No,
or anything
no,
like that?
they're all enclosed.
Okay.
And most of the courses, like the largest ones, like I think 200 by 300, and then the more of the other ones are only like 100 by 150. So,
In addition, there's also berms that are required. We've agreed to build in front of the property along 44 to increase the kind of the view shed, so it's less visible. And then how far below grade is everything gonna be built, Chris?
So most of the fields will be further back on the property, like 10 to even 20 feet lower than
The
grade
roadway.
line.
So you have these berms and then a gradual 20-foot drop
Remember that.
as they build them down. Plus the netting, and then we agreed to 100-foot barriers on either side. And also the back of the property didn't mention there's 20 acres that's remaining woodland that'll be just used for woodland courts. So all that back up to the.
I think Catherine's point for all of you guys is that you get to see the restrictions, because we were there. We were there at the planning and zoning. There was quite a bit that was actually put in place and was actually introduced to the fiscal court as well. Just to make sure you guys know that, again, we're looking at another type of activity that we bring here. And I think that's, you know, I'm looking at from our perspective, or at least from the mayor's perspective, it is something that we add to, again, for families. And I mean, I say kids, then I say adults.
yeah,
As you've mentioned.
I've had, I think, I've had an 88-year-old play. I think it was, and it was by request of his grandson, and
Yeah.
he had a blast.
Yeah. Not,
Do you have any more questions?
Why did you close down in 21?
We sold the property to warehouse development. I was there for over 30 years.
Okay. That's all I have.
Please don't sell this one.
I don't. Like I said, I had some, you know, everybody gets
Warehouse going there. There's
buyer's
no warehouse
remorse.
going there.
I had
That's not
seller's
even a comment.
remorse a little bit after that was done.
Also, it's zone B1, so it wouldn't allow warehouse.
Yeah, I know, it's just
In
that,
addition to
that's,
the fact that it can only be used for a paintball facility by the restrictions.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, if you'll send Catherine a list of the restrictions, we
Yeah.
appreciate it.
It'll be an
I
eye
wanna check
opener
with
for you.
Charlie, make sure I got the right one, so you
Yeah,
guys
okay.
are, you know, consistent. But it should be, we'll make that available tomorrow to you.
Okay, yeah, I can
Now,
forward that on to them.
Truly appreciate it. I know that between all these three venues that you've been to, that we appreciate that you guys, and again, you know, from a upside of the city, we get it. We'd love to have it. It's obviously another reason to come to Shepherdsville and Bullitt County, so.
I'm excited.
You know, we're excited about that. Arthur, obviously, will stay close to all that the information we need. I want to give the two folks that actually came here, and it's, make sure I get these names right. Mark Richardson and, Kyle Galloway. All right, so thank you, gentlemen. If you want to come up here for a minute. If you'll state your name and address, that'd be great, sir. If you will, just take a couple of minutes.
Thank you all very much. My name is Mark Richardson. I live at 214 Douglas Drive, which is probably a quarter of a mile from where this playground is going to be developed. Mayor, I want to go back with you just for a second.
Okay.
When did you say you had talked to Mr. Shell about annexing into the city?
I want to say, is it before this year was up, or before, I mean, before the year was up, or was it right after?
It was,
I want-
so it was probably.
So it's been longer than 3 or 4 months.
Oh, it's been longer than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point. In the planning and zoning meeting, Mr. Barr, or whoever, we can look back at the notes that were taken. There was a long list of stipulations that Mr. Shell would have to make.
No?
And if my memory's correct, there was a mention about septic tanks. That you were gonna have to put, you know, it'll be a septic service on that. And from what I remember, again, I'm going on memory, the landowner was okay with that. There was no problem with that. You know, everything was fine, low impact, everything, 44 is not congested, everything's fine, we'll get through this. Passed in planning and zoning. There was a margin there, but it did pass. Then it went to fiscal court. Again, list was read, septics, you're gonna have to put septic tanks in. We don't have septic tanks out, we don't have sewers out where we live, you're gonna put septic tanks in. Are you okay with this? Yeah, oh, yeah, we're fine. We're good with that. The thing that gets me, ladies and gentlemen, is this city park was already in the works well before planning and zoning. There was no mention of that at all in the planning and zoning, and also in physical court at all. I believe, if we're honest with everybody here, if that was mentioned that we're gonna be in the city, there might have been some changes there.
Can I ask,
Sure.
just, what changes would make a difference in that? The traffic was the issue, and then again, versus septic versus sewer, it becomes if you decide you want to be in the city.
People out there don't wanna be in the city.
Okay.
We don't want the city.
Okay, but that's not your property to decide if you want to be in the city, sir.
Right,
Okay.
but I can voice my opinion
Oh,
that we don't,
absolutely.
yeah, we don't want that.
But you don't have to be.
Right, we don't want that.
You don't have to be.
The second problem that we
Uh-huh.
ran into or thinking about was the sewers. If it does go in the sewers, the closest tap that I know is St. Andrew's Crossing. That's, that's gonna be. So I'm assuming from St. Andrew's Crossing, from there down to the development, we're looking, what, maybe half a mile?
No, it's not even quite that,
Or
quarter of a mile.
So, can't you imagine what the traffic's gonna be like on 44th, all that digging going on?
I mean, again, we know the traffic,
Yeah,
Mark, and I
that's what I
appreciate that. Again, that's a temporary to just get the development
Right.
piece done.
So that's my point.
Okay.
I just hope that, this group, this body group here will, like I said, there's nothing I can do about the paintball playground.
Uh-huh.
He's got that. I'm just afraid if we get sewers, there's something else coming down the line. May not be, but I'm just saying, I think there's something else in the works here that's not being said.
We don't have
And-
anything, we have nothing on the record that we're doing anything
No,
about.
not you all.
Oh, okay.
And if I was gonna buy, if I was gonna put a piece of property somewhere in one of the city, to annex it, I would build my property in the city. Thank you all so much, appreciate your
Mark,
service.
hey, thank you very much, appreciate it, thank you much. And did I miss somebody else? Is there somebody else in this group? I had a Kyle, that's not, that's you. I didn't recognize the last name.
Galloway.
Galloway, okay. All right, but you don't get to speak, sorry. Mark, thank you for being here. One of the things we want to make sure everybody does understand that as a courtesy, listen, I think you're a good guy and I've seen you before. No, and we want everybody to be heard. And
I appreciate that.
well, you're very welcome, sir. And I think for the fact that we actually have concerns from all situations, but as this council and myself as mayor, we're just trying to grow our community with services that we can actually have for our kids instead of going somewhere else. Instead of making that 30-minute drive somewhere else, we actually have it here. And it is, the upside of it is we actually have a small revenue piece in this. It's not a great deal, but it's still something, it's not a cost to us. So again, I appreciate everybody being here because I know that was a sensitive topic, but I think with this point, we've made it's got everything in there that it needs to, except we made the change on the address, okay? So we're gonna have our first reading of it, and then we've got 2 weeks, and we'll get you a list of everything else. And I wanna make sure that, anybody on this council, you need to make sure that you're asking us questions before this next meeting, so that we know where we're at when we come into that meeting, okay? We'll get you everything you need. We got Arthur here too, so you can always reach out to him if you have any concerns about the sewer piece on this. All right, Ms. Catherine?
On the deed, it describes.
Mike has,
Oh.
Mike's one.
I got a couple of questions,
No,
and this
Mike.
is mostly for
just have to wait till
clarification.
we get to a
Arthur,
certain
could you come back, please? You didn't run fast enough, did you? This is clarification. Always, as long as I've been involved in the councils, when we annex property that was not physically touching our city boundaries, we did it through quarter annexation, what they called quarter annexation. And I didn't know what that was. You explained it to me very thoroughly. And as I recall, it involved obtaining sometimes the state or the county's permission to use those easements, to use that to get to another section of property. So the other day, we're informed that this isn't a quarter annexation. If we're going to have a new standard for annexations, what's it going to be? I mean, we got your email that says this is not a quarter annexation. that the courts have determined this or that. If they have, they have. But if we're no longer going to use it, and some council members at various times, some citizens, they're just adamantly against it. I don't care what it is. Or you can be for it, one or the other. But if we're not going to use that same principle of having to get permission to do a quarter annexation, there was a distance mentioned in this, a very short distance, but what is that distance? Where is it gonna stop? If this is 3/10 of a mile, is half a mile okay? Is a mile okay? I don't know, I don't wear the robe. And they're the ones apparently making the decisions. So I would like to know, this is just apparently the first, that we're not using quarter annexation as we know it on this property.
They're saying it's adjacent, but I don't think they actually touch, is that correct?
Correct, okay,
Yeah.
so, Mike, this isn't a different standard. The KRS has set the standard, and it is if it's contiguous or adjacent to the property, and then there is this quarter annexation, which is a little bit of a different burden, I'll get to that. So, contiguous means touching. The courts are very clear that adjacent is not synonymous, because it goes back into history. So when they did annexation ordinance, it did have just the word contiguous. They redid the statute and added the word adjacent. And the Supreme Court spent 2 pages talking about they wouldn't have redone an ordinance and added a word if it was supposed to mean the same as a word that was already in there. So they determined it meant nearby. Now, courts are great at saying what's not adjacent. They are a little bit harder to say what is.
Correct.
They've said what's not adjacent if it's 10 miles away, if it's across the county. But they've argued that if it's pretty close by and it seems reasonable, that will work. So, in this case, I feel very strongly that a court would say, yes, this being 0.3 miles down the road, and less than that if you look on the aerial view, that would be adjacent. Now, corridor annexation is a different animal, and that's where, let's say it's farther than what we think adjacent might work. You're going to want to, and you want to, for some reason, annex that road. Well, you have to have a municipal purpose to annex the road. You have to be providing, the city already has to be providing something. It has to have water or sewer or something of its own under that road to say that's why we are annexing it, because we are providing a municipal product or a reason. We don't have that in this situation. I called Arthur and said, hey, do we have any sewers? Do we have anything? What do we got? He's like, we got nothing. We've got nothing in this case. So in this case, corridor annexation would not be the legally correct way of doing it. That could be challenged in court and we would lose. So when I started looking, I was like, well, can we do this? That's how we can do it as adjacent. It's perfectly legal. It meets the criteria, in my opinion. Could somebody come in and say, no, it's too far, and try to argue it? Sure,
Well, that's just
argue
kind
it's
of it. I
contiguous.
was just trying
that's-
to begin to determine what the boundaries are going to be, because I know we have done what we've called quarter annexations to properties that were probably a couple of miles away, but we had a facility, we had our sewers run by there.
Correct.
Everybody was up in arms about the property that was annexed, of course, and it was not contiguous or even adjacent.
Well, and then that's where the corridor annexation comes into play.
All right.
Well, and I will say that I find it so interesting that people oppose annexation when it's the property owner that is wanting to be annexed. It does not, contrary to popular belief, it does not affect the other property owners. They are not going to be automatically put in the city unless they want to be. I would argue that rezoning affects them more than an annexation. A lot more.
Yeah.
So, and that's why there's no public, that's why they're handled very different. In this case, a lot of your concerns and a lot of the concerns about how's it going to be, are we going to hold them to their standard? Well, if it's in the city, then guess what? Our code enforcement, Arthur, we have control over that. If it stays in the county, it's up to the county to enforce what they put forth. And I'm not saying they won't, but do you want to be the person that can go tell Arthur or somebody or you know, Ray, hey, they're not doing this? Or do you just want to have to call up, you know, Jerry and say, Jerry, please, you know, I mean, I'd rather be the person to call our own employees and say, hey, we've got a problem now and we've got to fix it versus relying on another governmental entity. So in that sense, it's a benefit, you know, to the city. And the question is, would there be any downside for the city to annex this property?
I don't see a downside.
I mean, that's really the question for the council, because in my opinion, this is very legal, it's appropriate under the statute. It's just a matter of whether you all are comfortable with it, whether you think it's a benefit to the city, or whether you're not comfortable or don't think it's a benefit, or actually for some reason think it's actually not beneficial. That's really the factors to weigh. And I'm sorry, I jumped in on you, Arthur, so. But that was really more, I understand what you were asking, Arthur, but it was really more of a legal question.
Right,
And in
it was
fact,
he
was not even aware, because once because many cities make the mistake. The way it all came up is I was talking to Chris Johnson at KLC about another matter, and this happened to randomly come up. And he was like, it's not just about getting state approval. You have to have, and he said, I can't tell you how many cities just ignore that second part. And nobody contests it, and so everybody moves forward. But, and they annex, and away everybody goes until somebody, I don't know if there's a statute of limitations, but until somebody wants to contest it. But knowing this, we need to do it the correct way. And in running this by, you know, Chris, who they see a lot more of this than we do. I mean, this is what they do all day, every day for years. You know, he was also of the opinion that, where this property is, if it's where you're telling me, if it's less than a half a mile, he does not see that this would be an issue with respect to the word defining adjacent and whether this would fit within that.
Like I said, I didn't see a downside to the city, anything to the city on this. But when I was looking at the different terminology we're going to use, are we going to use one in the future and not the other?
It depends on the situation. It's going to be very fact-based. So if it's another property and it touches, that'll be a contiguous annexation. If it's close in proximity and there's no reason for a corridor, or we don't have grounds for a corridor, and we think adjacent would work, we'll do adjacent. If we do need to do a corridor annexation, because we do want to annex part of the road for some reason, then, and we want also the property at the end of that road, then we would do a corridor annexation. So it's going to be very fact-specific and based on what's getting annexed as to what grounds it'll be for annexation.
Yeah, there's no change on terminology. There's just options in what you have as far as annexation process.
And those have always been the options. They just maybe never were utilized.
No, I mean, as I said, this was when we got the text message, that was the first indication I had that we were using different terminology for the same thing. Because by the standards we had been working with, I presume this would be a quarter annexation.
Right.
But then when I was informed, no, this isn't going to be a quarter, naturally, Mike asked why, you know? So.
Which is a good point.
Yes.
And fortunately, we've got people that are more educated in real estate, more educated on annexations. And so as we progress forward year to year and continue on our growth, we're getting more people involved, more intelligence, more education.
Yeah.
And so we have more options now than we've ever had. Whereas before, sometimes we just did what we always did because that's all we knew. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as we continue to grow and become better, we have more options.
Right. Okay.
So the other piece of that, I actually reached out to KLC this morning too, just to make sure that we're all, because again, we want to make sure the liabilities are just seem like they can rack up as the society goes along. I mean, more people are more informed about these things versus 30, 40 years ago. The information today, things like speed of light. So it's important that people know that we're really trying to do our due diligence. And I can safely speak for myself, but I can probably say this about this council. Everything that we've done for this first year and a half has always been trying to be a benefit to the city. This is not a benefit to any individual. This is about what can we do to add something else to this community, which has been lacking for years, and we all know that piece. And so the fact that we've got a lot of our own projects that are going on, you know, we're looking at our private development piece, that's really exciting. A lot of people are talking to us about those full-service restaurants, better shopping, things for our families here. But granted, we know we got water and we get traffic issues. We've always talked about that up here, right? They're not going away. I know that we're talking to Judge Summers, but there's obviously some great, knowing the timetables when these roads are gonna be expanded to when they can be expanded, it's gonna still be a struggle for us in 44. It's gonna be a struggle when there's an accident on 65. And when we do have an inch of rain, what it's gonna do to the city. So we understand this stuff, but we're still gonna be always looking forward to bringing things here to this community. And I'll keep fighting that battle, and, you know, I think you guys wanna fight that and get things done. We've done a lot of things. If you look at the decision-making by this body up here, they voted for things what were in best interest of Shepherdsville. And I always leave that out there for you. We've got plenty of resources that we can make a good decision about this. So for everybody up here, I do appreciate your time. Mark, I thank you for coming and making your comments. I appreciate that. Yeah, we appreciate you being out here. Obviously, Kenneth and your group, we appreciate you being here, passion for it. We hope that we can make a sensible decision that's in the best interest of Shepherdsville. Not on personal opinions. That's not what we're here. We're representing this community, and what we do best is we make a factual decision of what's best. All right, so thank you for that. Yes, ma'am.
I do have personal opinions, but besides that.
You thought that was directed at you?
No way, Bonnie.
I just gotta say, because this is based on my personal opinion, I think this sort of orchestrated event of doing the planning and zoning first to get it zoned where it needed to be for you all. You agree to do septic tanks, and then after it's all said and done, then you turn around all of a sudden and you want to come to the city. So I feel like that was sort of orchestrated so that you could get what you wanted in the city without having to come to us for zoning. Because I would have never, in my opinion, I would have not approved it because I don't agree with what planning and zoning and said, I don't think this is right for that area. I think you would have been better off closer into town, putting that not out in the country, because that is out in the country. There's a lot of acreage all around that. That is family land all the way around that. I know the family, I know all the land. And unfortunately, one member in the family got greedy and sold the property originally to someone else and didn't think about, was gullible and didn't get stuff in writing like it should have been to not get it sold like that. So I'm just saying it's orchestrated. I've said that before and got sued over it, so I might get sued again. But I battled on another property that sort of went the same way. They presented one thing the first time, and then we did a hoorah and switched it and did something else. It caused a big problem. I did get sued over that. And I'm trying to look out not just for the city, but for the people around it, because that sewer line is gonna have to come through somebody's property that is not in the city. That's not fair to them.
So I'll give you an example of that. Just the Kinetic, they're going all through our neighborhoods because they're bringing a service. And right now we've got digging through all of our yards. So there are things like that when utilities.
I know that.
Again, that happens to everybody. And
But
again,
this is out in the country, so
the country's about a mile from 65.
it's still in the country. There's farmland around there
I got
and
it.
everything.
I got it.
But I'm speaking for the citizens, the ones that I've talked to, they don't want this. And so I'm just trying to represent them because everything else is representing you all. I want to represent everybody else. That's part of our job. We don't just represent the city, we also represent everybody else. And so I just want to make that point clear, that we also need to think about the other people. And yes, no, we don't go after annexation of other people. We legally can, though. I want to make that point. We legally can go after property and annexation. We've not done it in the past. That doesn't say somebody in the future won't go, oh, hey, Douglas Drive, let's put them in the city and get all their money too. Let's force them to hook up to sewer and on down the road. I'm trying to look out for that because Lord knows the people out, south of the warehouses, they got hit hard and it wasn't fair. and I'm trying to stop that from happening. Just what I'm saying. I'm done.
You
I'm
done?
off my soapbox.
That's all right, that's all right.
One point, that's right.
Yep.
This site works whether we get sewage or not. So
Yep.
if we have to do septic, we can do septic, right, Chris? And if we don't have to do septic and we can get sewage, that'd be better. We think it's cleaner, more hygienic. So either way.
Yeah, it's better for the environment to
It's
have
better.
sewers
It's
than
better to have
septic.
septic. So
And
that's-
just, I wanna add.
That's true. So at the time, septic tanks worked for us, and then we wanted to come get, see if we can get some.
So with that said, Bonnie, for your benefit, it's not that easy if we try to do a direct on annexation. There's a whole lot different process. It's not anything like this process, somebody coming to us. It's a whole lot more work, and it really is, that's why they made it.
That.
Yeah, so it's
Also,
not the same
gonna
way.
cause confusion again in dispatch. But who do we send for what? Because the roadway in front will still not be in the city, it'll be Mount Washington territory, and then as soon as you get in the driveway, we're in Shepherdsville. We got lawsuits over that before. I was part of one of the ones that came, the reason I joined council in the first place was to help settle those lawsuits. So we're gonna again have us taking away from Mount Washington.
And that's why, under the statute, we have provided them notice.
Yep.
And
I've sent a
they-
notice to Terry and
And
said,
they
Stuart.
can object. The city of Mount Washington can object, and we have sent them, right, Brenda, we sent them that letter last week? We
We've
sent
sent-
them that letter
got
certified
their
mail in accordance
commitments.
with the statute. So, because they do have, water running out there, so
Yep.
we've had to notify them, and they absolutely can object. And if they object, that's the end of it. Like, there's no, I mean, I guess unless they just change their mind, but, so Mount Washington in that sense is, I guess, they are protected. I mean, they have an opportunity to say, oh, okay, they're gonna annex ours, and if we don't want it, we need to speak up. So, and I think he's even.
I've sent the letter to him, he's accepted the letter, and the city of Mount Washington is okay with this annexation. We wanna make sure, for this whole, we're following the processes, because, especially since one of the things that Catherine's brought to us is that we don't wanna be vulnerable, because the city has done some things over the years that we're not very proud of, okay? I get it, and I listen to Mike a little bit, and I've kinda heard a little bit in Faith, but I mean, I know Bonnie, you're obviously speaking, we don't want that stuff to happen anymore, okay? So we're actually gonna make all the phone calls, get all the legal advice we can, so we're doing something that still is good for the community, but doesn't put us vulnerable on the backside because of our decision. And that's kind of happened, that corridor, that whole thing with the rock quarry and all that, how many years ago, I know that stands out, but that's not the way things work today. They just don't work like that no more. There's not that kind of attitude that people don't have enough information to make sure things are done in a legal fashion. That's what we have in this day of age of information, so it's a whole lot different today. It's not gonna happen like that, and as long as I'm mayor and you guys are council, that's not gonna happen up here. So we're gonna make sure, but thank you for your soapbox.
And I just want to emphasize that, because I had talked to Kyle before, actually during their rezoning, there was no orchestration. The reason it went that route is because by the time we were ready to annex, they had already started that process. And I had a very long conversation with Chris at KLC about, they've started the rezoning, and then we're talking about annexing, and I'm like, I feel like they should finish that before we try to do anything. Otherwise, do they have to go back? And Chris was like, they've started in one spot, they need to complete it where they're at. And so, and that was more probably just a timing, because at the time, the House, or the Senate bill, whichever it was, that was still in effect, where we had to give 45 days written notice to fiscal court, which we don't, as of July 1st, that bill was no longer in effect, so we no longer have to do that part. And so that was part of why you're seeing that timing, because they had started that by the time we had all of the information we would have needed to start the annexation. And it was decided that that was the right, legally, that was the best and right move to make, and not to try to switch it, because that seemed even fishier. That seemed even more like trying to pull something over on one another. And then there was a question of would they have to go back and start over because the recommendation was made to fiscal court. And so that's why it was done like that. It was more of a timing issue, not a trying to orchestrate, anything. It wasn't to try to get this rezoned and then get it put into, because you all don't have to put it into the city. So I don't know that the rezoning of that, really plays a huge impact on the annexation. Unless you all just don't wanna be one in that area. I mean,
In
that's.
addition to rezoning, you want to make it more of an urban business use versus trying to annex it in as residential use. So the cost of that was for a period of time that way. Get the use approved and see if the city's successful, the sewers are not addressed. That's going to be, hope that's helpful.
So, and if he does try to get it rezoned, if it's in the city, you all have a say at that point.
Yes. Yeah, it does. I mean, obviously, any property can come up and ask for a different planning and zoning. And we're working on a comprehensive plan that's working on now that hopefully in 6 months or so, there'll actually be a better format of each of the areas of the county, okay? That's important because we see some of the struggles we have. I mean, Cedar Grove Road, right? That's obviously a great area that needs to be looked at the comprehensive plan. What fits there now? All the development that's going on there, so all the industrial park on one side, what's gonna happen from 65 to 61, right? That's a critical piece. We've already kind of dealt with that a little bit. So for everybody here, just make sure that you know that we really try to make sure we get as much information to you guys. Right? Uh-oh, somebody's going up to somebody.
All right, so
Right.
I'll read the summary now.
All right.
The deed has the description
Thanks, Tom.
as Highway 44 East. And so, since that's what the deed has, I'm just gonna include that, so it's gonna read the plat, the acreage, and then Highway 44 East Shepherdsville, because that'll just be consistent with the deed. And it'll just be consistent with the deed and the parcel. So summary of ordinance 024029, an ordinance pursuant to KRS 81A 4.12, annexing into the city of Shepherdsville, Bullitt County, Kentucky, by consent of all property owners, a parcel of real estate currently owned by Kenneth Shell and located at and known as Tract 2, Plat 3-333, 67.85 acres, Highway 44 East, Shepherdsville, Bullitt County, Kentucky, having parcel ID 054-000-00074, as more particularly described and illustrated in and on exhibits to this ordinance. Sponsored by Councilmember Brad Whitaker. Summary, Section 1 sets forth a description of the property, which is the subject of this ordinance, as real estate located at and known as Tract 2, Plat 3-333, 67.85 acres, Highway 44 East, Shepherdsville, Kentucky, 40165, parcel ID 054-000-00074, conveyed to Kenneth Shell in Bullitt County Deed Book 1105, page 121, hereinafter property. Section 2 incorporates by reference the exhibits that describe and illustrate the property. Section 3 sets forth that the property is adjacent to the city's boundaries and is urban in character and suitable for development for urban purposes. Section 4 sets forth that the owners of record of the property have given prior written consent and that the city enacts a single ordinance annexing the property. Section 5 sets forth that the property is annexed into the city limits of the city of Shepherdsville. Section 6 sets forth that after annexation, the property will remain subject to the same land use restrictions as applied prior to annexation by the Bullitt County Fiscal Court. Section 7 sets forth that the city has complied with KRS 81A.427. Section 8 sets forth the severability clause. Section 9 sets forth the repeal of prior ordinances in conflict with this ordinance. Section 10 sets forth the publication requirement.
All right. Again, let's spend the next few days, obviously, reaching out. If you need to reach out to Arthur, if you don't mind, I'm going to give him your number. I'll put it in an email that they can reach out to you for any other questions. I know you've answered quite a few in the 3 different venues, but at least we want to make sure that any other questions that come up. So we'll get, as long as you're okay with that, I'll send it to him. I'll get that to you, council. And then along with that, when we get the list of that, we'll put your number with that so that kind of ties it all in together, right? So you guys get to see all the restrictions on that. Is that good? All right. All right, we're good. All right, next is going to be 8.6, the resolution 2024-011.
Okay.
And we had
Do we wanna
it's a small
explain
change.
this while
Yeah,
we
go ahead and
wanna
explain
do
it.
this? Okay, so we got a call from, I guess, the grant administrator. I can't keep up with all these people. And they said, well, in the resolution that we passed back in April, we need the second paragraph or wherever to read that it said the mayor of the city of Shepherdsville can sign. We need you to add his name. But since you passed this by resolution, we couldn't just change it. So I said, okay, if that's what you need for us to receive the grant money, then we're gonna pass another resolution that adds specifically Jose's name as the one that can act on behalf. So I'm gonna read this, but literally the only change from the one back in April is paragraph 2 that uses his name as the mayor instead of just saying.
Because we want the money.
Yeah, we want the money.
We want the money.
But we also want to do it right, and so I'm not trying to send them a resolution that's not correct and then them come back 10 years and say we want our money back because you did something wrong. So, City of Shepherdsville, Resolution 2024-011, a resolution of the City of Shepherdsville, Kentucky, authorizing the completion and filing of a government resources accelerating needed transformation, known as grant program of 2024 project application for up to $3,277,860 in grant program of 2024 funds with the Cabinet for Economic Development. Whereas the City of Shepherdsville, Kentucky City desires to promote and carry out community development efforts on behalf of the residents of Shepherdsville by supporting the grant program of 2024 project, and whereas the city is submitting or has submitted an application for the U.S. Economic Development Administration's Disaster Supplemental Program with the intent to access federal grant resources that are in the public interest and for a public purpose, and may seek funding assistance in preparing or completing applications for federal resources, and whereas the city recognizes that the grant program of 2024 money is available to the city for the purposes stated herein pursuant to KRS 147A.150 to 147A.166, impose certain obligations and responsibilities upon the city and will require, among other things, 1, approval of a satisfactory application submitted to the Cabinet for Economic Development, hereinafter CED, for approval, 2, proper registration to do business within the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and 3, other obligations of the city in connection with receiving the grant program of 2024 monies for the purposes stated herein. Now therefore be it resolved this 24th day of June 2024 by the City Council as follows. 1, that a grant program of 2024 application on behalf of the city for grant program of 2024 monies up to $3,277,860 for the Shepherdsville wastewater treatment plant improvements and hydraulic expansion project, hereinafter project, shall be submitted to the CED. 2, that Jose Cabero, in his capacity as the mayor of the city of Shepherdsville, is hereby designated to be the city's authorized representative for this project and is hereby directed and empowered by the city to furnish and execute any documents which are deemed necessary by CED to carry out this project and to otherwise act on behalf of the city to effect such grant award. 3, that this resolution shall become effective upon passage and approval.
All right, so we made that one change. Obviously, we just want to make sure it gets correct. She mentioned there's times that somebody could come back and actually ask for the money if we didn't actually have this resolution stated properly. So.
Motion.
Any questions? You got a motion?
I'll
Bonnie, was
second.
that you, Bonnie?
Yeah, that was Bonnie.
Yeah, you're kind of quiet.
I'll second.
All right. Faith. All right, and then, Ms. Breda?
Bonnie,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
and Mike.
Yes.
All right, council, thank you very much. All right, we do not have executive session, kind of going through here. A little longer. All right, planning and zoning, nothing from Jeremy. I know they've got theirs. When is the next meeting? I don't know. I can't think of the next meeting. It's always the Thursday, third Thursday. Oh, it's this Thursday coming up.
Yes.
That's right. All right, so Jeremy will be on our next, he'll be on the 22nd. All right. And then,
Don't close this meeting out.
what?
Do not close the meeting out.
Okay. All right, so Board of Adjustments, Dwayne Price said there's nothing for us and not a lot going on. All right. With that set up, department heads. Chief Steve, come on down.
Trying to make this quick.
We're working on, we're trying to finish up here. That's what's
Sergeant
gonna.
Priest's loud radio, I texted him, I said, hit the fire alarm, make a distraction. I know he's gonna.
He didn't.
turn his radio on.
He didn't do really well with that.
Just a few things. One, I think that the festival last week was really a good turnout. Everybody had a good time. Like I said, with the exception of the people that had the heat stroke or the dehydration, which Bonnie provided a lot of the stuff, the water and the towels. So we'll be working on that for next year too. I think we should provide and have it available.
Do you know what I think? I think Bonnie wanted to be real close to see me get dunked all the time. That's why she worked that station.
We all did.
And she actually did some great pictures. The pictures that you sent me, great shots. It's me pushing the button. I'm starting to fall, and then you actually got a second shot. And I sent it to Bonnie. All right.
And then the other, we're gonna be selling through GovDot or GovDeals is a lot of the cars. So if you see all the cars on the side of the building, we don't have that many officers. I wish we did, but we don't. I think we're gonna be able to start putting them online. I think in the next week or two, we'll get some stuff finished up with the cars we have to sell. And I think we are gonna sell one. Catherine, I think will be working on this, to sell one to Lebanon Junction. We've agreed on a price. It's gonna be more than donated just because the car was in better condition. And then really the final thing is that We were lucky enough to have two gentlemen start this morning from
Uh-huh.
the police department.
Saw them this morning.
Stephen Martin and Timothy O'Keefe. And it's just an example when the mayor talks about looking forward to, the future and how we do these things. We actually started this list back, I think it was in February or March. And they're just getting hired now because there's such a delay in getting them into the police academy. So we brought them in a couple weeks early to do some stuff with us. They actually don't go to the academy until September, but in August, it's gonna be a lot of online. So, like I said, when we look at what the future holds and what our needs are, we've actually gotta start about a year and a half out, which these two guys, by the time they get out of the FPL program, they won't be out on the street, taking runs by themselves probably until this time next year. So, just some of the stuff that goes into it. If y'all got any questions of me, I'll be glad to answer.
No, I obviously appreciate your presence there at the, and we've talked about different things as we go down the pipe. We're obviously got more presence in some of the aquatic center and park areas. We're gonna close it off. We're gonna actually close it off at nighttime, so we wanna make sure we keep the park in a really nice position, so. But I appreciate all you guys have been doing. I mean, we have our challenges, but I think you've done a really good job.
And I wanna thank you and the guys, cause, I had a booth there, and so they always came and checked on me and everything. So, yeah, and even you came and checked on me.
Even me,
I know.
But no, we appreciate it.
Yes.
Everybody was just up there having a good time,
I mean-
everybody did, so.
I mean, me and Rob Adams gave out 400 bottles of water that day, so, over 2 days, we gave out 400 bottles.
So Bonnie, how many things of, water did we, was there 6 tubs out there, 6 of them?
Yes.
And I bet you they were filled. I mean, Amber's not here, like she said earlier. I mean, it was like, we kept filling them up. I mean, they got the point.
Yeah, we ran out of ice.
Yeah.
All the ice that they had bought just for that. We ran out of ice. At Friday night, I only had to refill one. Saturday, it got to where we were refilling every hour.
I know,
It was hot.
Yeah, we had people who took water bottles and said, as soon as this is empty, I'm going over there to fill it up. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, well, if we need to expand that, and so we had our meeting today, we're looking at a couple of things we're probably gonna present. We're kinda going through some things, we think we got a couple of good ideas to even improve on what we did this year, streamline it a bit more, and some things, so pretty excited about that.
And just, I won't be at the next meeting, I'll be just getting back, getting out of town, so, our gentleman will be here.
It's on vacation again.
Yeah, we're always on. I'm sure he'll
How
have.
many vacations do you get?
1 a year, this is it.
I'm aggravated.
I'm already on that.
1 a year, 1 day, he gets 1 day a year. That's
1 day.
it. 1 day.
Chief, thank you very much.
Bye.
All right, so gentlemen back here, I got 2 of you back here. You guys wanna come up and speak a little bit about the fire department? And I didn't wanna pick on either one of you. I figured one of you would step up, come see us. Adam being shy, come on up
The
here.
only thing that we had is, reiterating about Chief Troutman's retirement.
Huh?
I know Assistant Chief Britt and you have been working together on the retirement party / get together for him. So as soon as that gets finalized, we're gonna push that out.
All right, so I'm gonna finalize that right now.
Okay.
All right, for you, it's August the 20th. It's a Tuesday. It's at 6 o'clock at Parakeet Springs. And I told Lane, I said, he's got a lot of folks that he's probably over the years. I said, but he's got to limit that a little bit. So he's got 100 people he's going to invite to that. And then we're going to have it at Parakeet Springs. We're going to always do our retirements, something real nice to show our dedication. And I will say Daniel has all the rest of that taken care of. He's got all the awards and stuff. And I do want to tell you, I miss the guy. Did a really good job for the fire department. But I will tell you also that I started some interviewing process that you guys will probably know. Today being the 8th, I'm going to try to know. I've got a couple more, I've got some interviews to do, kind of follow up on some stuff, but hopefully I'll have a decision within a week to 10 days of who's going to be our new fire chief. So I want to keep you up with that. Lane Troutman is still the chief until 31, July 31st. So we want to honor that, but at the same time, we want to get ready for our next phase.
And we wanna thank you for your effort on moving forward with further on the fire department.
It's well, I mean, I'd say well deserved. You got a great group, and that's a reflection of Lane and everything he's done. So he's going to be missed, and we've got some other things. And just for everybody here, I'm going to go ahead and say this. I just want to make sure that we have people who are going to recognize, and Bonnie and I are going to do some recognition after we get through this crazy election stuff. And I want to make sure everybody knows that because, first of all, not because you work the water, not because you work the water, but I think it's important for everybody to know that we've got some good people that have done good things, and we're gonna try to do everything we can to recognize the folks that do all these years that have done good things in this city and the county. So thank you very much, and look forward to it. We're gonna have a good time with it. All right, you can pass that out to everybody. Thank you very much. Do you, Brenda, want to go get copies?
Yeah.
Saguaro, you wanna explain what we got going on here?
Not really.
Yeah, she's gonna explain.
Not really.
Yeah, she's gonna explain. Oh, yeah, she's gonna explain. You ready for this, Arthur? Write it down. Write it down, Arthur.
Okay, so apparently in the confusion of emails and attachments, the wrong, which we probably would need to redo it anyway. They'll probably want your signature, so fine. It's fine. That's the vote on this one's fine. But it was the wrong resolution that they needed redone. This resolution that as I was reading it, I was like, this wasn't from April. I just did this when I remember working on it. And so I pulled up the email, and it was not the right resolution. It was the resolution. So I apologize. I did not make these changes. I thought that anyway.
So are we waiting to do another one?
We are waiting to do another one. I've got Brenda back there to do the correct one, because I told them that we would get this to them tomorrow.
Right.
This is the one that we passed back in April for the $684,000 or $85,000. The one that I just read that we redid for his thing was for the $3 million. And I think what causes the issue is that we've got two going on at the same time, and they're both with the same people, which is why I'm thinking it's fine that we did this one anyway. Because I have a feeling they're gonna come back and say, we need the mayor's name in that one too. So we're ahead on that one. We'll get this one. I do apologize for that.
That's just because we're kind of putting so many efforts out right now for getting more money. And so that $680,000 that we've already been awarded, they need a little paperwork snafu fixed. We also need a resolution for the $3 million we're going after that we don't have yet, but they have said there's a possibility for this. So if you pass a resolution, you can apply for this additional $3 million. And so now we're chasing both buckets of money to see if we can get more. Because KIA is still gonna loan us the $12 million. In addition to that, if we can get that $684,000, which is already on the books, then another $3 million grant funds for that, I mean, we're already in the plus. We're still not out of the $6 million from the EDA on the Fed side, so that's not gone yet. But we should hear back from those guys within the next 3 or 4 weeks. So
is there anything else?
Chasing a lot of money right now.
So let me ask you this, while you're here, do you have anything you want to add about sewer? Is there anything else that I don't know what's going on with staffing wise, anything?
Now that we do have the KIA commitments and you have now accepted our invitation, we'll be moving forward. We've already got our permits right now for everything splash pad, playground, park, and the town square. So we're solid. Floodplain permits have already come in. We're good to go. We're gonna be working with both the floodplain mitigation and our wetlands people in Frankfurt and up in Louisville, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to expand our wetland impact in the park as part of our development plan, but also do that in a responsible way that we're expanding our water treatment on the stormwater side. So those things are all clicking and moving along as the project is going, but we're not waiting for those pieces. We're gonna go ahead and start construction in the area where we don't have any floodplain issues, and start construction where we don't have any issues with our wetlands, to mitigate any wetlands. But we've already started all the planning and whatnot to get that done, so by the time spring comes and we have availability for our contractors to be working in that area, we're ready to work in that area. And so that's clicking at the right speed, and everything's coming in together. We have already coordinated with District 5 whenever it comes to the light at Joe B. Hall in Buckman.
That's the challenge.
That's kind of a big deal for us, because as you guys have looked at the vision that we have as a community, we want to be able to welcome into the park with that archway, Shepherdsville, bring somebody into the park, you know, with that good visual view shed there coming in. And so in order to do that, we need to lose some telephone poles and some utilities in that area, and let those guys go underground. So that intersection is very important. We've already started the permit process with them, and had like 3 different meetings bringing them on board and letting them tell us what is and is not available.
Thank you all for coming.
And everything that we've got planning is a go. So they already gave us some constructive criticism, like, hey, move these light poles back 18 inches. Not a big deal for any of us on the design side, but a big deal on the permit side. And so getting out of that clearance or that crash zone makes a big difference for them. And so
The price is big on that. Let's not ignore, one thing while we're waiting for people to get here is, back, I think we lost them. We lost our city clerk and our city attorney. But the cost of actually doing that, moving of the utilities there, that's a big piece in that town square piece.
Oh, yeah.
That's the tough part about it. And I, again, for just remembering what we're gonna do, so basically from Joby Hall to the river, the utilities are gonna be moved from there, so that's gonna be aesthetically nice. All right,
Yeah.
since we have this now, Arthur, is there anything else you'd like to add to the?
I'm excited. Like, we are about to jump off into a really big event.
Yeah,
for
so
the
we,
city.
so one of the things for everybody here, since today we got everything squared away with Hagerman, probably in another week or two, you guys are gonna get notification of a groundbreaking ceremony for that process, so that's gonna be a pretty exciting piece.
Yes.
All right?
Which one, the Aquatic
Huh?
Center?
Huh? Yeah, so
So you
that's
want-
your pig shovel thing, and then sprinkles on, what is it, you want some glitter on your shovel?
Glitter on hers.
Do you want glitter on yours? Jerry, do you have anything reference, do you want any on your shovel, do you want a certain color? Do you, I don't know what you need, some sprinkles on it or something?
I was just sharing this with Mr. Barber and go, I've got a shed full of it, I'll be happy to donate it to the city.
There's some cost savings, and we'll just put, we'll engrave the names on them, that's how we'll do that.
Is it in the pink?
I do have a pink.
There you go.
Oh, my
You gotta-
goodness.
Now, that means you gotta try to help Jennifer out too. All right, with that said,
Okay,
The resolution's
let
gonna
me,
be what?
let me just clarify on 2024-11 resolution, where it said that it was resolved the 24th day of June. That should have been the 8th day of July. So I'm just gonna make that, I'm gonna clarify that, typographical error. And we're gonna move on to resolution 2024-12, a resolution, and this was the one that was amending the one back in April. A resolution of the City of Shepherdsville accepting the grant, approving the grant assistance agreement, authorizing the amendment of the City of Shepherdsville's annual budget, and authorizing a representative to sign all related documents. Whereas the Kentucky General Assembly has appropriated funds for infrastructure projects in House Bill 1 of the 2022 regular session of the Kentucky General Assembly for the Cleaner Water Program, and whereas the City of Shepherdsville, the grantee, has previously determined that it is in the public interest to acquire and construct certain facilities and improvements to the grantee's utility system hereinafter the project, and whereas the grantee desires funding from the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority, hereinafter the authority, for the purpose of acquisition and construction of the project, and whereas in order to obtain a grant from the Cleaner Water Program for the project and administered by the authority, the grantee is required to enter into an assistance agreement, hereinafter agreement with the authority. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Shepherdsville as follows. 1, the grantee hereby accepts the grant award and approves the agreement between the grantee and the authority to provide the necessary funds to the grantee for the project. 2, that Jose Cabero, in his capacity as the mayor of the City of Shepherdsville, is hereby designated to be the grantee's authorized official for this project and is hereby directed and empowered by the grantee to execute the agreement, related documents and agreements, and to otherwise act on behalf of the grantee to effect such grant award and to engage a qualified project administrator. 3, that the grantee hereby agrees and commits to include by amendment to its annual budget and audit process the receipts and expenditures of funds subject to the agreement up to and including the date of project closeout. 4, that this resolution shall take effect on July 8th, 2024.
all right,
I'll make a motion.
all right.
I'll second.
I got Faith and then Jennifer.
Brad?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Thank you all, and thank you for your patience out there.
I do apologize. This came in Wednesday afternoon, so
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about timeout, 5-minute timeout. All right, so, I did get through, I talked to Arthur. Brenda, would you like to add some words of wisdom?
Oh, he's gone. Talk to Rob, because he said I wouldn't talk.
Oh, yeah. So we're finishing up, we're almost finishing up, we got a few more touches. That actual, up front where our podium will be there, it'll be matching this, the whole setup here, so we're waiting on that back, but, hope you guys like that. I did did actually make a comment, speaking of Rob, we would like considerations for no food and drink in here, because if you look at the last carpet, it looks like it's, people have been sharing what's going on here, so, what's that? Well, if you keep it back here, I mean, I should, I mean, I think we just gotta be careful with Cokes and coffees, just so the stains on the other one, I mean, spend some money on this, I'd like to be able to try to keep it in a decent shape. Put a sign on the door, I think we're gonna do that, yeah.
No
I just-
Diet Dr. Peppers, is that what we're gonna put on the
Yeah.
door?
No Diet Dr. Peppers,
There you
that's
go,
what he
Rob.
drinks, yeah, yeah. It's just a courtesy, obviously, we've got quite a bit invested, and it's time, it's been like this for a long time, and we want you all to know that I'm very proud of things, and, you know, Brenda said if I didn't do it, she wasn't gonna give me a Christmas card. All right, with that said, council, do we have any remarks? Mike Hibbert, what you got down there?
Well,
It's always a mystery.
I know you'd be glad to hear this, that, as I said before, my main concern is about not any person, it's about the process. And that's what I was asking about tonight, was the process we're gonna use following on. So, I know we got a lot to consider, and, I hope I wasn't admitted from that statement Arthur made about these intelligent people that they're bringing on. And,
That'll be up for you and Arthur to figure that out.
but I'm gonna weigh heavy on him on that.
Yeah.
Other than that, I have no other comments tonight.
Mike, thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Faith, what you got?
You're not gonna believe this,
Uh-oh.
but I have nothing.
Oh, my gosh, mark that
Speechless,
on the calendar.
people, speechless.
All right. Jennifer, what you got?
I just wanna also say thank you to Public Works for last weekend at Bullet Blast. They did an awesome job and, again, helped me out because I had a lot of missing things and I do need to drop off some bungee cords that I borrowed, so
No noise.
I'll get those back to you, Tom, if you're listening, so.
Brad? All right. Miss Bonnie,
I have stuff.
go right ahead, girl.
Not a lot, but, with the Bullet Blast and the city fair and everything, it did go really great. Amber did a wonderful job. She spent a lot of hours in that heat, longer than any of us did, and I appreciate everything that she did. She was well organized, and it was very nice. Did love the dunk tank. Thank all the people who participated in that. We had one very interesting character that did it at one night.
Oh, the hillbilly?
The hillbilly.
Yeah.
I enjoyed him. I did get to dunk the mayor.
She did.
And
Highlight of the,
I appreciate the police and fire out there in their hot uniforms and everything, helping everybody. And they were coming by, especially the chief was coming by and checking on me. I loved working the water booth. I gotta say, there were so many people that were so polite and thankful. You know, with today's times, you really don't hear very many people saying please and thank you, and there was so much of it. A lot of teenagers and children, and I was just, really made me happy to see them being so polite. The water booth, I think, was the most visited booth, I think. And I'm so glad that they did that. I'm so glad that I was fortunate enough to get to work it. I like helping people, and I felt like I helped a lot of people
you did a great job.
in
Miss
those
Bonnie.
2 days, and it really touched my heart to be able to do that. Also for Public Works, they were great. They were going and getting me the ice and helping me fill the water jugs, 'cause I couldn't carry them. There was no way.
They're pretty heavy.
They were too heavy for me. They kept up the trash. They were picking up people and taking them here and there, and they all had smiles on their face. They were very gracious, and so the whole city worked together really well, and look forward to next year, because I got a lot of ideas for the water booth, and that's it. That's all I had to
Really
say.
appreciate what you did, because I mean, there was the Louisville Water had their center, and they didn't have anybody manning it, and you just stepped up, so I really appreciate you doing that. I know you just want to be close to see me get dunked. Anyway, but we did have a good time, and what she said about the community, was really true. I mean, they took care of the place. It was all really nice. Everybody was very courteous. It went well. Didn't have any problems from a legal standpoint. I mean, we did want to make sure everybody's hot, so you got to be careful with the weather out there. But I thought it went really well, and do really appreciate that you did what you did. And like I said, Paula helped out a little bit here too. But you guys had your booths and stuff like that. But listen, thank you all for being here. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
All motion.
A second. Mike. He's quick. You see how he's quicker today. He knows that somebody's going to break that trend. It's going to come soon. Somebody's going. You think it's going to be you? So it's going. He was quick. I know he's paying attention. All right, Brenda.
Yes.
I expect to the consideration to the old people, you know? Yes.
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 Thank you all for coming. We appreciate all of you hanging out with us tonight.